of the dignity of labor, which plays an important role in developing a nation. Our young generation must learn to respect the labor. To achieve this, must have the attention has been paid to the ideas of students' education and the dignity of labor in the new education policy. In the 21st century, all eyes are set on India as it bears a capability of providing talent and technology to the world. The national education policy addresses this responsibility that we bear towards the world to develop futuristic technology. The concept of virtual teaching, learning would make quality education accessible to our young generations far and wide. The national education policy also aimed to bridge the gap between research and education in our country. But the national education policy could be implemented more effectively and rapidly only when the institution and their infrastructure would reflect these reforms. It helps in the encouragement of building quality and gives everyone an incentive to grow. Therefore, to implement the new national education policy, we all have to work together with full determination, and that is the reason why we all have gathered here to initiate a new round of dialogue and coordination with different stakeholders. Since the most of the present here are the top of the highest higher education institutions, we have a greater responsibility. I urge you to collectively create a strategy for the policy, a roadmap to implement that strategy, backed by a timeline to implement it. My salutations and heartfelt gratitude to all the speakers, teachers, and professors who agreed to participate in this weekend event. I sincerely hope that the better suggestions and solutions for the effective implementation of NEP 2020 will come out of these 7 days plenary sessions. Thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Thank you so much, sir. We are indeed blessed by your gracious presence and your valuable insights. Moving on, now I would request respected Vice Chancellor, Sir, Professor Dr. Shibaram Khara, to address the audience with his welcome address. Dr. Shibaram Khara, Vice Chancellor, Sharda University, received PhD in Engineering from Jadavpur University, Kolkata, in Next Generation Wireless Heterogeneous Network. He completed Electronics and Communication Engineering and Digital System from National Institute of Technology, Allahabad. His industry and teaching experience extends in wide areas of communication and networking engineering. He has successfully completed the project for the Defense Services. He has published a number of research papers in reputed international journals and conferences. Professor Khara is well reputed for his innovative teaching pedagogy and techniques, which are designed in conformance with Dale Carnegie and Mission 10X concept. Dr. Khara is a life member of various reputed organizations such as IEEE. He is the editor of many international journals. He has been the advisory board member of Service Academy Publisher UK. He has presented more than 50 guest lectures and workshops and organized several national and international academic events, including conferences, training programs, workshops, and panel discussions. A renowned face in education fraternity and Researchers Association. Ladies and gentlemen, I present among you Professor Dr. Shibaram Khara. Sir, I request you to kindly share your valuable insights with this august gathering. Over to you, sir.
I have few minutes left because chief guest already has joined. Honorable chief guest, Professor Sahasra Buddeji, Professor Furkan Saab, Professor Sandeep Sancheti ji, and Pro Chancellor Y.K. Gupta ji, all the faculty members of Sharda University and from other institutes, and all the participants. A very good afternoon and warm welcome to everybody in this event, the Institutional Development Plan for National Education Policy. At the outset, I just want to highlight that the National Education Policy is one such document that came out in 2020, widely accepted by everybody, irrespective of any of these interests. So currently, whatever the lacuna or problems are existing in the education system, brilliantly outlined. The fragmented education system, lagging in cognitive skills, low learning outcomes, the curriculum rigidity, limited access of education for ACDG, socially economically disadvantaged groups, the limited autonomy in the curriculum designing for teachers and institutions, weak mechanism for promotion and progression, poor research in terms of quantity as well as quality, suboptimal leadership, ineffective regulatory bodies, and large affiliating colleges. These are the few weaknesses are identified in the national education policy, and policy has framed a very forward-looking visions, keeping the points in views. The forward-looking visions encompasses the skill-based holistic development, knowledge economy, full equity and inclusions, ethics and constitutional values to be included in the curriculum, liberal educations to be implemented, multidisciplinary university is expected, flexible learning, extensive implementation of choice-based credit system, happiness and livelihood of the students are very much important, and making very creative individuals. Thereby, in summary, the national education policy has outlined the graduate attributes, a thoughtful, well-rounded across discipline and creative individuals, economic independence for the graduates, job providers than job seekers, lifelong learning skills, interdisciplinary and multidisciplinary domain, and well versed in cognitive skills. Thereby, national education policy proposes some of the restructuring and reformations of the system, the institutional level restructuring, outreach, admission, equity, and inclusion level reformation, program and curriculum restructuring, engaged faculty with autonomy, student support systems to be renovated, flexible learning trajectories to be provided, multidisciplinary research is to be created, and criteria-based evaluation system is to be implemented, industry support is to be, and industry engagement is to be implemented, quality research in terms of quantity and quality. And also, Higher Education Council of India is to be formed under 4 pillars, and then ODL and online programs will be at par with the regular programs. So with these points, the university has framed the institutional development plan, and we want to listen and want to get opinion from all the stalwarts and experts involving almost 20 vice chancellors and eminent persons. And I'm sure that this event will be very much useful and unique in kind, that first time we will be emphasizing on institutional development plan, and which will really happening in the institutional level to transform and meet the expectation of the NAP. Thank you very much and wish you all the best.
Thank you so much, sir. Thank you for your insights. Moving on. Sometimes words fall short to describe a person, and our chief guest of the day is one such personality. To introduce our chief guest of the day, Professor Dr. Anil D. Sahasrabudhe is like showing the light to the lamp. Nevertheless, as it is customary, Professor Anil Sahasrabudhe, Professor of Mechanical Engineering at Indian Institute of Technology, Guwahati, is currently Chairman of All India Council for Technical Education. Prior to joining AICT as Chairman, Professor Sahasrabudhe has held several important academic, research, and administrative positions at institutes of national importance, such as Indian Institute of Science, Bangalore, Tata Consulting Engineers, Northeastern Regional Institute of Science and Technology, Itanagar, IIT Guwahati, and College of Engineering, Pune. As an academician and researcher in these esteemed institutions, he has taken up several new initiatives for academic, curricular and co-curricular activities, entrepreneurship, research, and good governance. He has been an architect of reforms in technical education at AICT, which include mandatory student induction and internship, faculty certification, and Atal Faculty Development Program. Sir has also been credited for creating first ever India's MOOC platform, that is SWAYAM. He has also been actively involved in examination reforms, innovation movement, series of hackathons, new funding schemes for supporting students, faculty, and institutes. He is Chairman, Basic Science Research, Empowered Committee of UGC and SWAYAM Board. He is a fellow of ISTE, IET, and IE. He has been bestowed with several awards. I request all the to keep themselves muted. He has been bestowed with several awards, which include Maha Entrepreneur Award in 2011, Jeevan Gaurav Puruskar Lifetime Achievement Award from MIT World Peace University, Pune in the year 2019, and Mahatma Gandhi Leadership Award from Indian Achievers Forum and CSR Times 2019. Sir, it is indeed a pleasure and a blessing to have you among us. I handed the stage to you, sir.
Yeah, thank you very much, Madam Parul Saxena ji. We have with us the entire gamut of Sharda University, Chancellor, Pro-Chancellor, Vice-Chancellor, Pradeep Gupta ji, Yatindra Gupta ji, and Shivram Karha ji. And along with that, two other renowned academicians, Professor Furkan Kamar, as well as Professor Sandeep Sancheti, and more than about 20 odd vice chancellors for attending these 7-day sessions, which are going to be held every day. I watched 3 sessions per day, around 21 of them. Recently, after completion of 1 year of the new education policy, Ministry of Education had done 7 webinars, and each day there were some 4, 5, 6 experts drawn from different areas. So it is almost exactly on the similar lines to create what is known as institutional development plan for academic excellence. Not just for Sharda University, which obviously they would be doing it and implementing it, but this knowledge transfer to all other universities, vice chancellors who are attending, they will also gather expertise as well as a lot of information through variety of these people who have had their own rich experience in these areas. And that is what is enriching and empowering for all of us. Right, on 29 July 2020, the new education policy after 34 years came into existence. And quite often we have been stating that it has been from Panchayat to Parliament, Panchayat to Prime Minister, that everyone was involved for the first time in a nationwide policy formulation. But many times formulations are good, policy looks good, but how about implementation? Are we serious about that? And that's the question quite often we have not addressed in the past. Earlier policies were also pretty good. And that's where when Prime Minister on the first time in 29th July policy was announced, and by 7th August, there was a Prime Minister's address, and followed by that, there was a Shiksha Parva. From school education to higher education, what are the contents of the policy and how we have to understand the nuances of that, which was formulated by none other than very towering personalities associated with the policy, Dr. Kasturi Rangan, who was the chief of that. That was needed to be understood by people. So after understanding, in about a couple of months, people started implementing. A roadmap was created. Something was done by school education, something is done by higher education, something by UGC, something by AICT, ministry itself. So few of the things started getting implemented, and that was what was celebrated on 29th July 2021. Once again, Prime Minister speaking to the entire set of people, academicians in the country. He had said about roadmap, strategy, and then implementation last year, and he repeated. And while repeating, some of the achievements were also narrated, but many new things were first time launched in our country. And that starts right from school education to higher education. And now reflecting on that, and just now the Pro-Chancellor and as well as Vice Chancellor spoke about very important thing that many times we have a lot of information, but that information is not converted into knowledge or knowledge into wisdom, it is useless. Same is the case with the policy. The policy enunciation or policy framework, the implementation plan has to be fully understood, and then we start implementing. The last 1 year has gone in COVID, and therefore some of the activities where we could have come together, met with each other in a classroom environment or in a conference room has not happened, and therefore everything is happening in an online mode. This is also a great learning for all of us, because the policy talked about several uses of technology in education. And this, without even trying to implement it formally, it has happened, informally. Because there was no choice for any one of us in the last 1.5 years. All the classes have happened from moving from face-to-face to what we call as the online mode or ODL mode. In different, mechanisms are evolved. People have both versions, what we call as synchronous mode and asynchronous mode, both have happened, and people are getting education. There are challenges. When we come to that particular part, we will also address what are the challenges and how we need to move forward to address those challenges. But although all of us here are in the higher education sector, I would like to start with actually school education itself. This is a very important change that has happened, and that is going to have a riveting effect on the entire higher education spectrum. For example, the policy in the first para talks about education as fundamental for achieving full human potential, developing an equitable and just society, and promoting national development. I think 3 important parameters: achieving full human potential. That means every individual is divine. That's what Swami Vivekananda had said long ago. How do we unearth it? How do we empower that individual is very significant and important. This policy talks about using the potential of every human being, developing it further, blossoming it is what requires to be done. In the process, we should not leave out anyone. We have also the principle of Antyodaya, and therefore developing an equitable and just society where no one is felt to be left out. That is very significant. One is of that of a feeling and really truly not being left out. Both are equally important. And that is the second aspect of the policy. The third is about promoting national development. Ultimately, what all we do has to lead to the development of the nation and in turn the globe. So that is very, very important. And in the process, our earlier mantra of access, equity, and quality has been expanded to include affordability and accountability. These 2 features are important. In our country where the incomes are so low, affordability becomes important. You may have a quality education at a very high price. I will not be able to afford it. So affordability is also important. And then whoever takes that fee, commits and promises that I will deliver you so and so, that accountability is required. Otherwise, tomorrow you take money and then you are not delivering that what is expected by the stakeholder, by the student, by the parents. That is also not acceptable. And that's why access, equity, quality is joined with affordability and accountability. It also talks about the human values, humanity, integration of all variety of elements that are there in the country, be it in terms of variety of education providers, be it in private sector, be it in government sector, school sector or higher education sector, be it in the form of, we call them as deprived sections of the society, SC, ST, OBC on one side, women, empowerment of women, that means the gender diversity is also to be taken care of. At the same time, there are physically challenged, whom we are calling today as Divyangas. How do we take care of them, their education? Because they will require some special support system. There are also people who are not aware so much, but what Western world call them as SLDs, specific learning disabilities. One form of that is known to people because of the Tare Zameen Par movie is the SLD form of dyslexic children. People who are getting confused when they see the numbers. They all feel that कुछ चक्कर हो रहा है, घूम रहा है, ऐसा लगता है उन बच्चों को, और स्पेलिंग में है. They will not be able to write the correct spelling because they get jammed up with different words in part of the words. And we have seen some of us, even if the spelling is wrong, we read it correctly because we know the correct spelling. But some of these guys, unfortunately, don't. But they are very brilliant. They have got their own talent. how is education system can take care of all of them right from childhood. And therefore, the new education policy in the school education, instead of 10+2 system, has talked about 5+3+3+4, and which is going to be a fundamental difference, a change that is going to happen. And in this change, there are a couple of new things which are going to happen. Not all children were getting into education at the age of 3 so far. Most of the children were going at the age of 6. Very few lucky ones are there, maybe in cities, who will go to nursery, lower KG, upper KG, in this kind of schooling system. Some others, even in some smaller towns and villages, there are balwadis, anganwadis, they get through that. And then formal education starts at the age of 6. Now it is going to be started at the age of 3. And that early childhood care and education is given very, very great emphasis, which is going to lay the foundation for not only later part of the primary education and the secondary education, but the higher education as well. Number one, the child, when it enters the schools, it should not feel that it is not unwanted there. It is wanted, is the feeling which the child should get. And that's why, whether it is in the form of games, whether it is in the form of stories, toys, plays, all variety of things, child has to be provided. Also in the form of mother tongue, teaching in the mother tongue, where from home to school transition is very, very smooth. There is no turbulence which is going to be there. That is what it is said. And therefore, maybe you call it experiential learning, joyful learning through variety of languages and stories and games, toys. That is what is advocated. In the process, gradually, you start learning alphabets, you start learning numbers, you start numeracy and literacy. Then maybe small stories, writing, reading, etc. will start off. And at the age of 6, a special document was released on 29th July by the school education, and it was called Vidya Pravesh. The internship, it is something very interesting. You call it as internship, you call it as the induction program for students. When a child enters the schooling system at the age of 6, and from different varieties, some children coming from Balwadi, Anganwadi in local languages, some from English medium, some having gone through nursery, KG, and some without. All of them have to be integrated through this very innovative program called Vidya Pravesh, which AICT had developed as a student induction program for higher education students. It is exactly a replica of that. We have a 3-week induction program for students, and this talks about 3 months. Because small children take longer time to adjust with each other at that level, and that is very, very important. And subsequently, it talks about holistic learning, integrated learning, continuously joyful learning, inquisitiveness. How do we create inquisitiveness? Be it some kind of science experiment, science toys, which will make a child to start asking questions. This is very important. We have been snubbing children when they ask questions. I think children should be encouraged to ask questions. Maybe these questions are very difficult. In the colleges, I have seen that hardly anyone asks questions, because from the childhood, from the school education itself, they are being snubbed so many times that they don't dare to ask questions in a faculty member. Because at least in the school, I don't know what evaluation is followed, but in the higher education, students are afraid that they may lose grades. They will get less marks if I corner a teacher if he is not knowing that answer. And therefore, I think moving away from that, how do we develop this kind of culture in the school education, whether it is the role of teachers, pedagogical aspect, and that's why instead of the B.Ed program of 2 years, how integrated 4-year B.Ed program is important, and a subject knowledge as well as teaching learning philosophy has to be understood very well, is also part of this entire possibilities. Then resources are limited, therefore, how do we form clusters? And we engage with each other in a collaborative manner is what is talked about in school education, also in higher education. Next part is that of skilling. Skilling has been given great emphasis. Vocationalization has been given great emphasis right from 6th standard. That means present 6th standard or the next level in the new system after 5+3, 8 years of education, or at the age of 11, a child should start doing some kind of skill understanding, learning in the school itself, be it a carpentry or welding or electronics technician or repair of something, or even as high end as artificial intelligence and machine learning. I think that is where skill sets of low end as well as high end which produce ultimately people who are employable at the low end or high end, must be created as skilled manpower right from grade 6 itself. And as the child gets into that 3 years, at least one skill set, it must have expertise. And in the last 4 years, that is 5, 3, 3, 4, that last 4-year system, a child should have at least further another couple of skills. It must be able to garner, must be able to learn. And not only that, that part is said to be a liberal arts type of a system where you don't have rigid boundaries like arts, commerce, science, which we see today at the end of 10th standard. The student either gets into a commerce stream or a science stream or an art stream, which is going to be dissolved. That means the 4 years of last part of the secondary education is going to be fully holistic type, including a student can take sports as some subject, can take art, can take music, dance, drama, it can take psychology or philosophy or economics, can take physics or maths or chemistry or even computer programming or artificial intelligence as some of the subjects. That means it is absolutely a flexible system that is getting evolved in the last 4 years of system. And such students, when they come to higher education, with the type of examination that has been talked about, to move away from rote learning to students who have to understand nuances of the subject in terms of understanding, in terms of critical thinking, in terms of analytical ability, data analytics, creativity, innovation. Such students, when they come to higher education, our job of Sharda University or job of AICT or UGC is going to be much simpler and easy. Because they're all well prepared, grounded. People are rooted in the right kind of education which is necessary. And that's why I spent little time on this essential part. But the other part, which is talked about in both lower education, that means primary and secondary education, to the higher education, is about talent. We have enormous talent in our country. We need to search it, we need to support it, we need to mentor it, we need to develop it, we need to blossom it. And that starts from school education to higher education. One simple thing which we started 4 years ago about Smart India Hackathons has proved that whatever industry wants in terms of employability or in terms of creativity, in terms of innovation, in terms of research, everything is given in the form of a capsule of Smart India Hackathon. Right now, of course, most of the students who participate are from the technology domain, and some from maybe architecture, maybe from some from pharmacy domain, some from even commerce college, economics students are attending. But by and large, it is still more technology oriented and more engineering oriented. But I want that our future hackathons must be truly holistic. Having a student from a sociology or economics or a psychology background on one side, to a student from engineering and medicine and law on the other side. A group of 7, 8, 10 students working together on the real challenges of the society, be it of water, be it of environment, be it of pollution that we are facing today, be it of transportation system, be it of cyber security and security itself. All of these problems have all variety of inputs which are required, and how our teams can be formed comprising of all this, and therefore truly collaborative efforts will start happening. And that is what our future hackathons have to be. That is where talent will get coming out of all these individuals. And we have to also understand our basic ethos, philosophy of our ancient Indian knowledge system. Some of the greatest works of maybe 3,000 years, 5,000 years ago, Vedas, and which were written, there are no authors. So today we all talk about patent, we all talk about copyright, we all talk about knowledge being, within the forte of the particular domain of some individuals. I think that was not there, and somewhere in between we became very rigid. That's a different matter. So we have to free ourselves from the shackles, and the true spirit of the well-being of an individual is connected with that of the family. With the family, it is connected with the society, and from the society to the nation or country, and from the country to the entire globe or the world. And the very philosophy of Vasudhaiva Kutumbakam is talked about in different ways in the policy, and we need to understand that the whole world is one family, and how we have to help each other, support each other. And pandemic really made us to do it. It was somewhat forced upon all the nations to share the spread that is happening. How do we control it? And also sharing of the resources, sharing of the vaccines which were developed, by one country with the other. And therefore, the spirit of Vasudhaiva Kutumbakam in the truest sense, and also that of Sarve Janaha Sukhino Bhavantu, that everyone be happy, is also spirited into that. The last one, another shloka from the Rigveda, is about Ano Bhadraha Kartavyo Yantu Vishwataha. That means the noble thoughts, let them come from all sides. We should not be only saying that everything is only in our country. No, America should not feel that everything is there with them. Nor India should feel that everything in the ancient time was there with us. Something which is developed elsewhere has to be also taken by us and then further develop it into further useful to the society. I think this spirit has to be imbibed. And in all of this, wherever possible, we must make use of technology, whether it is in the online mode or offline mode or type of created courses in video mode, which can be played again and again and seen. I think this is what the policy talks about. Now coming to a few other elements of the policy where things which were there earlier have been made sharpened actually. We always talked about autonomy all the time, right from the 1968 policy to 1986 policy. Even prior to that, Radhakrishnan Commission had also talked about giving of autonomy to the institutions, because the system of this universities affiliating colleges, which is from the British era, they themselves left it, but the four countries in the subcontinent here, India, Pakistan, Bangladesh, and Sri Lanka only continue. Rest of the world has moved on, but we have been attaching importance to affiliation system. And we have seen unwieldy number of institutions which are affiliated to this university system. You take an example of, I've seen one of the largest universities when I was in Pune, more than, I don't know the numbers now, 1,000, 1,500 colleges affiliated, 300 of them engineering colleges, maybe themselves, and others arts, commerce, science. And it is like a board, conducting examination and then evaluation and then announcing the result. Universities were supposed to be these places, centers, where a lot of knowledge exchange, information exchange, a lot of argument, counter-argument, and which in the form of when the churning action takes place, the wisdom which emanates is like Amrut from the Samudra Manthan. That should happen in the universities. But that was unfortunately not happening because these universities are bogged down by even curriculum revision does not happen for several years, maybe 1 decade or 1.5 decades, because there are a variety of complex arguments which are put up by different colleges and participants, and therefore nothing happens. So I think universities with a large number of such affiliated system will only do conduct of examination, and that too rote learning based, memory based examination, because no one has time to have a creative question paper to be created. And therefore, how autonomy is granted to the colleges, and each college can do their own curriculum, their own teaching learning process, examination was talked about continuously. But here very specific targets are given for the first time, that within the next 15 years, there must be no affiliation system at all. And you must have all the colleges autonomous. Maybe some of them will graduate into full-fledged universities and become either research intensive universities or teaching intensive universities. But nonetheless, everyone should become multidisciplinary. This multidisciplinary nature of education, which is supposed to be the university education, has been forgotten. I was very happy and delighted when in the beginning, the university, Sharda University, is talking about not only engineering and management education, which I refer to always being an AICT chairman, but whether it is humanities and social sciences, law, medicine, all of those, architecture, they are all part of this university. So that is truly multidisciplinary nature of education, which is important. Thereby, a student of engineering, if he is interested in architecture course, or someone is interested in some course on law, maybe constitutional law, he wants to learn, this kind of credit should be allowed to be taken by the student. And if the university has such infrastructure with such faculty from all disciplines, only then this is possible. But today, even if that is not there, to start with, we have a MOOC platform, SWAYAM MOOC platform, where more than 3,500 courses are available from different domains and disciplines. Only universities have to allow their students to take courses from other disciplines. Many universities have still not started doing it. Very few have started doing it. Not even 10% of the universities are allowing their students to take courses from this SWAYAM and allowing it to be added to the transcript of their own university. I think if we start doing that, making it multidisciplinary, making it research oriented becomes much easier. And I think in the next 1 or 2 years, this will gather momentum. This will gather momentum from another account, because there is another multidisciplinary is accompanied by multiple exit and multiple entry, which is talked about in the policy. A student who joins a particular stream may not complete it, and in between, because of whatever reason, wants to go out of the system. He does not go empty-handed. In the new policy, we provide him a support in the form of giving a certificate or a diploma, depending on how much quantum of work or knowledge that he has gained or she has gained, and will be in a position to go out. And suppose it is because of financial problem and therefore wants to do a couple of years of job, settle down in the family and come back. In that case, the credits earned are not lost, they are kept in the account. And that is what is called as academic bank of credit. So student will have an account right from school education, and it will continue till the graduation and post-graduation. So whatever credits are earned, if the number of credits for getting a degree, they are satisfied, and then with some rules, of course, one cannot say that I will do 3 credits each for 160 credit requirement of an engineering degree from about 50 odd institutions, and I want a degree from some IIT. No, this is not going to be possible. Obviously, there will be some kind of an MOU understanding between different institutions whose credit will be accepted by another institution of equal stature, and then accordingly the student can do in multiple universities and colleges some part of the curriculum, and then where it has taken, that child has taken maximum number of credits from that university or college, one can get a degree. I think this is what is provided, and therefore academic bank of credits will force institutions to join the mainstream in terms of not only multidisciplinary nature, but allowing multiple exit and entry, which is a very significant change which is happening. Some universities have already started experimenting multiple exit. I'm talking about multiple entry. When about 4 months back, AICT announced that even those students who by mistake or because of whatever chance has not done physics or mathematics or chemistry, which is fundamentally important and required for engineering education, can also join engineering and complete whatever was missed out during their 11th and 12th standard in the first year itself, and then continue. There was a hue and cry. And we had to make a lot of explanation that engineering is not going to be without mathematics. It cannot be without physics as well. In fact, in many courses, not only chemistry, it also requires biology today, because we never thought of biology as important for engineering, but today even biology is going to be important for engineering discipline, because most of the new areas of innovation research that is happening in engineering is from nothing but bio-inspired inspiration. You look at the plant, you look at the different animal species, the way they behave, the way plants behave, the way some of these functions happening in those creatures, we make use of them in our engineering. The aircraft itself, we see the birds flying, and therefore knowing the principles of how birds are flying, we were able to create an aeroplane. It's not now, no. Wright brothers, and prior to that someone else might have done or not done, we don't know, but this is what is possible by looking at the nature. We see butterflies and how different colors are changed by some of the animals, and how we can make the same thing to camouflage some of the things if we don't want to make it to be known to the enemy country. There's so many things from nature we can learn and then continue to develop our own new technologies. And therefore, it is not just physics, chemistry, mathematics, but even biology is important. But suppose someone has not done biology, or someone has not done even say mathematics also, which is so significant and queen of sciences, but he is passionate and he is very brilliant, bright. He is willing to put in extra 1 year to do his engineering. Why are we stopping him is the only question that we raised, and then finally it is acceptable. Otherwise, there was a hue and cry. And therefore, multiple entry, multiple exit is a possibility. Of course, you will have to do a lot of bridge courses in order to come level with the remaining part of the remaining student. And that is significant and important. How even in our education, we used to call some of the subjects as extracurricular earlier. And then slowly the terminology got changed to co-curricular. And today they are all called curricular in the new policy. So an engineering student wants to do sports, he wants to take tennis as one subject with 3 credits, I think should be allowed. It cannot be that a mechanical engineering student would like to do some 20 odd courses of different variety of sports, different 10 courses of different music and dance and want a mechanical engineering degree is not possible, certainly not. But whatever open electives are there, maybe some 3 or 4 courses of his or her choice should be allowed. And that may be sports, that may be cultural, that may be art, that may be any other domain. That's what is multidisciplinary all about. And slowly a few institutions have started doing it. Next comes a very important segment. I said in primary education, it should be started with the mother tongue. Now the policy told that even higher education should be provided for those who are interested in mother tongue. And this was happening in maybe few fields like arts, economics, psychology, philosophy was being taught in many universities in the local languages, regional languages. But as it comes to the domains of maybe engineering or medicine, law, pharmacy, architecture, this has all the time been in English. And we assumed that the regulation does not allow to teach it in other languages. This was a mistake that many people did. I would like to reiterate that around the independence time, I had my 2 professors, very senior professors who were recruited as emeritus professors in College of Engineering, Pune, and both of them had done their degree in engineering in Urdu from the Nawab state of Hyderabad. And if it was possible in the early 40s and 50s, what is the problem in the 2000 when we have so much of possibility of translation of the material in different languages through a lot of automation? And so this year, according to the policy we announced, and we are happy that in 5 different Indian languages, Hindi, Tamil, Telugu, Marathi, and Bengali, some colleges have come forward to teach engineering in mother tongue. And for supporting them, because there are books required in these subjects, we have translated all the Swayam courses of the first year immediately. They are available in 8 Indian languages immediately. And then we have expanded to now 11 languages and increasing it to 12 languages. So this is where possibility of making students learn entire degree program in regional or local languages, mother tongue, is possible. But added to that, we are making the original authors to write books in these languages. Those who know the subject, those who know the content of that particular subject, they are writing these books. And even the translation, we are making it easy through an artificial intelligence based, very specialized tool developed in AICT by some of our students and some faculty members. We are using it. One of our chief coordinating officer is constantly in touch with student interns. 2nd year, 3rd year students have created this. And this is far better than even what Google and Microsoft tool does. Because Google and Microsoft tool does translate the paragraphs, the written sentences, but it does not translate a figure, equation, or what we call it as tables, which are there in most of the textbooks. Our tool will translate and put it exactly in the same format as that of original English. And thereby, the students will have access to material in different languages, which will empower. Even if formally the whole degree program may not be in that language, but for understanding, even though the classes are held in English, if a child or student does not understand a particular subject, one can go back to that translated version and then understand it and then make use of it. I think this is another area which we have covered in the recent past as part of the policy, and we will further increase it as we go along. And this is where equity comes, for all the children. We had 2 independent committees set up in the last 1 year. One of them was the children who have got that special disabilities, or what we call learning disabilities, or what we call as dyslexic. Such children, they need to be supported, but they cannot be supported with the routine, usual type of classes. They require certain tools which are required. So we had 2 committees, one of the former IIT Kharagpur Director, Professor Chakravarti, and the other one headed by the Deputy Director of IIT Delhi, Professor Balakrishnan, and both committee recommendations we have accepted. And we are going to set up one such college in every state where there will be all variety of facilities to empower such children. So at least in every state, means the students of that state who have got such problems, at least will be within the state. They know the language, they can go to that particular college and get their education. I think this is empowerment. And we are supporting in each of these institutions a project of ₹5 crore each. So this is what is engagement in terms of what we say equity and inclusion. Then comes the motivation for the faculty to be what they are supposed to be. And that is where AICT has started the teacher certification program. It is an 8-module program. We also have teacher empowerment through faculty development programs through Atal Academies. More than 2 lakh faculty were trained in AI, IoT, machine learning, deep learning, robotics, all the emerging areas, blockchain, augmented reality, virtual reality. I think this is what is one of the important things. So such faculty, when they are fully empowered in their life cycle, whatever is required, we are training them. I'm sure they will start doing innovation, they will start doing research, and the policy has National Research Foundation with 10,000 crore rupees budget per annum for the next 5 years. 50,000 crore rupees are earmarked. I'm sure a lot of research, which is across the domains, will start happening. And the next important thing, which your today's seminar, this 7-day seminar is going to talk about institutional development plan. It must deal with governance structure. What should be the governance structure? What will be the mechanism for grievance redressal? What will be the mechanism for students to get help from different types of faculty in terms of whether it is access to the laboratories or for going for various competitions, both nationally or internationally. I think that governance structure is required to be a very transparent system, which has to be in place. And when I say that universities and colleges should have a transparent system, the regulatory body should also have. And the new policy, which talks about regulatory framework of Higher Education Commission of India, is one of the most important segments where the combination of UGC, AICT, NCT, Architecture Council are to be merged into one single body with 4 verticals. The 4 verticals are NHERC, that is National Higher Education Regulatory Council. We have a funding council, which is Higher Education Grants Council. There is a accreditation council, National Accreditation Council. The last one is standard setting body, which is called General Education Council. So I think when these 4 verticals and the HECI, Higher Education Commission of India, will come into place, one of the significant thing is the regulation must be light but tight. This is a famous statement from the writers of this particular policy. Dr. Kasturi Rangan has referred to it in the book. But what is that light but tight is experimented and proved this time and last year by AICT thanks to COVID. Our entire process of approvals for the colleges was made online. We have nothing like having visits to the institutions. The charges of corruption between the faculty who are going for inspection and the college, whatever was happening, or many times both were alleging each other that the facility is shown or not shown. Today, everything is captured in camera on the Microsoft Teams portal, and what questions were asked by the experts and what answer was given, whether that facility was shown or not, is all available. So no complaints are coming today. So automatically, the governance structure has changed in terms of the regulatory framework that AICT has developed. I'm sure when HECI will come, a leaf will be taken out of what we have done by other various segments. Because that in that case, that will be only single body. So whatever body comes up as NHERC must adopt the system which we have developed. I think I can go on, but I should close at some point. And if there are any questions later, I can take them and then answer them. Thank you very much for this enlightening 7 days which are going to be there, and we'll learn a lot of lessons from this. Thank you very much. Namaskar.
Thank you. Thank you so much, sir. It's just pure bliss to have you among us. And I would now request Professor S.S. Prasad Rao, Director, Teaching Learning Center, and the brain behind this novel initiative, to propose a formal vote of thanks to our chief guest. Sir.
Honorable Chairperson, AICT, Professor D. Anil Sahasrabuddhe ji, our Chancellor, Sri Y.K. Gupta ji, our Vice Chancellor, Sri Sivaram Kara ji, distinguished professors, Hasnain sir, Arora sir, like that. There are so many people, and there are several other Vice Chancellors of various universities are also taking part of this program. For 7 days, plenary sessions are designed. This is the well thought by our Honorable Vice Chancellor sir, inviting the best universities from the country. Actually, it is a diversified universities and professionals are invited for delivering these sessions. I'm sure the national education policy will revolutionize the Indian education system. It is a well-structured and it is captured most of the important aspects as mentioned by Sri Anil Sahasrabuddhe-ji. It is built on the fundamental or foundational pillars of access, equity, quality, affordability, and accountability. Sir, this program is going to be there for 7 days, every day, afternoon, 2 o'clock to 5 p.m. And the vice chancellors of various universities are identified based on the topics, like as you have mentioned earlier, that grievance redressal system, student wellness, the rural cohort, how to make the students empowered for making the students very much global. And that's the reason why we have invited from different parts of the country, from different institutions, like KIT University. It is established in remote area of Odisha, going to talk about the rural cohort, how they can be empowered with the support from the university. Like that, a neurosurgeon from Shiksha Sandhan University, Professor A.K. Mahapatra, is going to talk about the student wellness. A neurosurgeon talking about the student wellness, you can understand how professional this program is going to deliver. That's why we are all hoping that these sessions will be, enjoying and very much fruitful, and all the deliberations will help us to take the institute to the next level. Thank you all. Thank you very much for gracing this occasion and encouraging all of us to take the university to the next level. And we are also happy to be part of the mission, the national education policy, because this is going to shape the young minds into global power. Thank you all. Thank you very much once again for giving us the wonderful opportunity, sir. Thank you. Over to you, Parul madam.
Thank you. Thank you, sir. Before we move on to the next segment, an important announcement. The following plenary session will be followed by a question and answer round, which will be moderated by Dr. Anubha Vashish. So I request the participants and the audience to please keep pouring in their questions in the chat box, and towards the end, we'll be taking those. And also a link for the attendance and the feedback will be shared in the chat box, so keep a tab on it. With this, we move on to the theme of the day, learning outcome-based curriculum. And the topic for deliberation is holistic and multidisciplinary education. And with great pride, I extend a very warm welcome to the esteemed speaker of the day, Professor Furqan Qamar. Professor Qamar is presently Professor of Management at the Center for Management Studies, Jamia Millia Islamia, New Delhi. He has served as the Secretary General of the Association of Indian Universities. In his illustrious career, Dr. Qamar has held the position of the Vice Chancellor of the University of Rajasthan and the Central University of Himachal Pradesh. He has also served as advisor education in the Planning Commission of India, essentially a professor of management. He has keen research interest in public policy, planning, administration, and financing of higher education, and has numerous publications in journals of repute to his credit. Professor Qamar has chaired and had been members of a large number of committees, working groups at the national and international level. Dr. Qamar thus brings with him academic eminence, leadership qualities, and exposure to best global practices. Sir, we once again welcome you and request you to bless us with your thoughts. Over to you, sir.
Chancellor of the University, Professor P.K. Gupta Sahab, Pro-Chancellor Y.K. Gupta Sahab, Vice Chancellor Khara Saab, and very, very importantly, the chairman AICTE, Professor Anil Sahasrabudhe. It's a privilege and a pleasure to be a part of this program, 7-day program that Sharda University is organizing towards the development of institutional plan for the implementation of the national education policy. Professor Sahasrabudhe ji has said almost everything that needed to be said about the policy. And he also covered the holistic higher education and multidisciplinary higher education, leaving very little for anybody else to add to it. And he spoke not only from the document, but also from the practical exposure, experience, and implementation of the policy. So I'll try to deal with this topic that has been given to me, although there might be some duplication to what Professor Sahasrabudhe ji has already said. But I'll try to avoid it as much as possible. This national education policy of 2020 has suggested several structural reforms in higher education. For example, and these several structural reforms are interconnected with one another. It is almost nearly impossible to separate these structural reforms from one another. I would like to highlight that because that is essentially very, very important for implementing the holistic higher education. The first reform that it's talking about is that the institutions of higher education need to be reformed, and reformed in such a manner that all higher educational institutions need to be multidisciplinary. Several disciplines exist on the campus, and they are of size so that they are not only economically viable, but they are also academically viable kind of institutions. This resizing and upscaling of all higher educational institutions will not be possible unless, or will be necessary for implementing the program restructuring that this policy talks about. For example, this policy talks about giving opportunity to every student to learn whatever the student wishes to learn. And I think in this process, this policy is breaking certain assumptions that we so far had in our higher education system. So far, we had an assumption that students are perhaps not mature enough to take their own decision. Knowledge rests with the teachers, and it is the teacher who need to decide on behalf of these students. And therefore, it is the teacher or a group of teachers who would decide that what all a student must study, up to what duration, in order to get which qualification or which degree. And in this process, what has happened is that whatever curricula, whatever methods of teachings are decided by not even all teachers, but some of the very senior teachers, because experience was given to students, and a student had no choice to choose between that what they should or they should not study as a part of the program. Let me cite practical examples taking advantage of the presence of Professor Buddhe and other distinguished vice chancellors. In our university, when we started the MBA program, there was an AICTE curricula and the UGC model curricula available. And it was far more easier for all of us to say that we have adopted the UGC model curricula and the AICTE curricula for the MBA program. And this curricula provided that in the very first semester, all students of management must study a course on computer application. You all must be familiar with this. So we also had this course taken as it is from the model curricula of the University Grants Commission. Our problem was that the student would not want to attend this particular class. I mean, they would want to do anything else other than coming to this particular class. We thought that it is perhaps problem of the teacher. We also tried with some other teachers, but then this problem persisted. We tried to talk to a student, but as Professor Buddheji was saying, that a student rarely open their mouth in the presence of teacher, and frankly, so they did not tell what's the reason. Many years later, I found the reason when my own daughter was in class 6 of the CBSE school. And then we found that what was prescribed in that curricula was already being taught to a student in class 6, class 7, and class 8 in the name of the computer application, and rather much more than that. So students were finding it wasting their time attending to their classes of the computer applications. But since there was no other options, the student had no choice but to take this course, but not to attend the classes and somehow manage the attendance, etc. Now this assumption is being broken. By the time these students come to our campuses, they are already 18 years of age. That is the time when they vote. They take a very critical national decisions. The information explosion has happened, as Professor Khara was mentioning, and therefore all the knowledge are available at your fingertip on your smartphone, mobile. And it's a possibility that these students themselves are becoming aware of many things that are happening in the world of work, in the society, in other educational institutions, in India and abroad. And we as a teacher do not know what are the career goals which students might want to pursue. And therefore, these students may want to do something different or something more than what's prescribed. To some extent, we broke this barrier by introducing the choice-based credit system, and students were given some freedom. But then this would also be possible only if the institution itself are having many disciplines on their campuses. So after making all institutions multidisciplinary and of large size, there is a linkage to it that this will enable all institutions to be able to offer multidisciplinary programs of studies. Who said that you cannot study philosophy along with your physics or mathematics? Who said that engineers need to know only engineering and the social sciences and the humanities, and ethics are not important for engineer? Rather, we are finding that to be a good engineer, to be a good doctor, it's also very necessary and important to be a good human being. Second thing is that today, if you examine the situation, rather in all our personal lives, we'll find that none of the problems that we face in our life can be solved by the knowledge of a single discipline. You always use knowledge from many disciplines to solve the problem. That is not only applicable in case of the individuals, but this is also applicable in case of the problems that the nation faces and the world faces. So say, for example, if it's the crisis of the energy or if it's food security, and if we think that these problems can be sorted out, can be solved, and solution could be found out either through engineering or through agriculture or through some other technology, I think we would be wrong in those assumptions. We need multiple of the disciplines knowledge to find solutions to these major, and even smaller problems that nations and the world faces. Not only this, I think the Yashpal Committee report needs to be studied if we really want to understand the holistic and multidisciplinary higher education. Yashpal Committee, in its reports on the revival and the rejuvenation of higher education, went into length by saying that everything that could have been invented within the core of a discipline has probably already been invented. It means the possibility of the real scientific discoveries and inventions within the core of a disciplines now are very, very limited. And that is the reason that most of the research, most of the seminal research, most of the discoveries are coming through intermingling of several disciplines together. So when, and I think Professor Sasbuddheji already highlighted this issue, that the engineers need to know biology. There are so many things when the medicals and the engineers, professionals, when they came together, there was discovery of the possibilities of a number of inventions that may have been made by the scientific community as to how to use it, starting from X-rays to ultrasounds to so many things that we all see. So if we want to promote research, it has to be interdisciplinary, it has to be multidisciplinary, it has to be by combining the knowledge, and therefore the boundaries between the disciplines should be what Yashpal Committee mentioned. The boundaries between the discipline should not be rigid, rather it should be porous, meaning the knowledge and people from one discipline should intermingle with the knowledge and disciplines of many other disciplines. In fact, I have seen some of the architects who are specializing on institution building, and if they say that if this is your purpose of intermingling, the physical architecture of the university will also have to of that kind, so that per force compulsorily people from many disciplines come across to one another. So for research, for solving the problems, for a wide variety of other reasons, many disciplines need to be intermingling with one another. Otherwise, we shall be behind the world as we already are, as far as the quality of the higher education is concerned. Similarly, and then how would that be possible? Even in the past, we have attempted with many multidisciplinary courses. For example, many universities started courses in, say, developmental studies, area studies, assuming that a single knowledge of political science or sociology will not be needed. You need many disciplines to come together to understand an area or to take care of the developmental needs and solutions. But then over a period of time, when it is teacher-centric, that interdisciplinary program itself becomes a discipline in itself. And therefore the advantage of multidisciplinary disappears. And therefore, it is felt that the students of many disciplines should study together. For example, when we implemented the choice-based credit system, I find that there were two kinds of universities. One where the courses are being offered, and these courses are open to anybody in the university. Of course, you prescribe certain prerequisites and co-requisites to do that course. And in the same class taught by one teacher, you find that there are students from economics, there are students from engineering, there are students from psychology. And the knowledge transaction in that classroom also improves, because for a given set of issues, the engineers, the economists, the psychologists, they all speak from their perspective, and then a more comprehensive and more workable solutions does come in. In choice-based credit system, we did it in limited manner. The national education policy talks about that we should make it open, and we should make it open such that students be free to choose any course from across the institution. Actually, in the US universities, there is a term that they use, that out of a 4-year undergraduate program, 2 years are devoted to swim across. Let the students swim across the pool of the university, go from department to departments, experiment various knowledges, learn from various teachers, various disciplines. And in this process of swimming across, the student find their passion. The student find what motivates them, what fascinates them most. And then the next 2 years goes into diving deep into that disciplines. And those courses for which they have dived deep, that is the degree that they are given. I think that is the model which the national education policy is thinking, that provide students opportunity to pick and choose a wide variety of courses. I think the national education policy was aware that to implement this kind of multidisciplinarity, we have to address the issues of paucity of teachers, because this system would work only when you have large number of teachers. When you do not have a scarcity of the classrooms, they are available in plenty. So they were perhaps aware that these requires investments, and these investments may not come quickly. And therefore they found another solution, and that solution was on the basis of the technology. They said that, okay, technology could come handy. So there are MOOCs platform, SWAM platforms that are available. Already Professor Sasbudde mentioned that more than 3,500 courses are there. I think many courses which were earlier developed by NPTEL have also come on this portal. So this policy very creatively said that students be allowed to choose or to take courses through these MOOCs platform. Presently, I think it's about the SWAM portal, but gradually perhaps it will be opening to other MOOCs platforms which are being offered, like Coursera, Udacity, and many other possibilities. Now a question arises that this program restructuring and institutional restructuring would again not work unless the regulation is restructured. Say, for example, even if you are convinced of multidisciplinarity today and you want to implement it, you would be able to implement it in humanities, social sciences, maybe in engineering, but perhaps the Medical Commission of India would still not permit your students to take so many courses or to experiment with so many other varieties, because they have a kind of curricular framework and they want this curricular framework to be followed. So the regulatory reforms, removing or doing away with multiplicity of regulation which was being suggested for a long time to come, has been suggested here. And I think much of the changes would come when these regulatory reforms takes place. We still do not know the broad contour of how this new regulatory restructuring would take place. So once that happens, we will know the broad features. Professor Asbuddhe already mentioned that it will be a single regulator for higher education other than medical and other than agriculture. And it will have 4 verticals. There would be multiple accrediting agencies, and the institution shall have choice to choose one of them. There would be a grant council, maybe the University Grants Council would be renamed. There would be a higher education regulatory council, but most importantly, these standard setting bodies or general education council, which is mandated to work out these details. So these details would further be worked out. For the interim, the solution is what Professor Asbuddhe has already mentioned. Now coming to another part, that there was an existing assumption which all universities have been following. We did not need a change in education policy to break away from that convention, but nobody was trying to breaking away from that convention. And that was that when you take admission in a program of study, there is a minimum duration of that program prescribed, and there is a maximum duration within which this program must be completed. You expect a student to complete within the minimum duration, but yes, you have given them the flexibility to complete within the maximum duration of the program of studies. If a student for some reason is not able to continue to complete her education, either within the minimum or maximum duration, this student would be labeled as a dropout of your university, would not get any kind of qualification from the university. Second assumption was that you must complete your program of studies from the university where you have taken admission. And that is often justified, and even today, Honorable Chairman AICT justified, that we have so many variable quality of higher educational institutions that it may perhaps not be possible to accept credit from one institution by another institutions. Take even say engineering admissions. So all engineering institutions are not same or similar in the quality, rather there is a huge difference between the best and the rest kind of an institutions. Now this new education policy is trying to break away from these assumptions. And in fact, a few universities have been experimenting. When I was Vice Chancellor, Central University of Himachal Pradesh, that was a new university. Experiment was easy. Initially, it was very small university. And again, it was possible to do many new things. We introduced both a kind of multidisciplinary education and also a kind of multiple entry and multiple exits. Just to cite you one example from there. So if a student has taken admission in the master's degree program, which is a 4-semester program, and supposing a student has completed 2 semesters and is unable to continue for any reason. The reason could be personal, the reason could be social, the reason could be economic. For any reason, this person is not able to continue in the 3rd and 4th semester, but has successfully completed the first 2 semesters. We provided that let this student graduate with an advanced diploma. And the rule also provided that if this student comes back within, say, next 5 years' time, he or she would be able to continue from where he has left, meaning he can start from the 3rd and 4th semester, would complete all the 4 semesters of the master's degree, and would get his master's degree, and the diploma would stand surrendered to the university. First 2 years, no student made use of this facility. They all wanted to complete their education from beginning till end. But in the very second convocation in the 3rd year, we found that some 12 or 13 students wanted to make use of this option. And we had some discussion with them. And these students told that after doing their graduation, these people were preparing for various competitive exams for jobs. Somebody were appearing for the probationary officer's job, somebody was appearing for the insurance sector, and so on and so forth. And by the time they completed 1 year or 2 semesters, they had qualified those examinations for job. And the economic condition of our country is such that people give preference to jobs rather than continuing their education, because they are not very sure that they will be able to qualify for this kind of job again. Now, these students very respectfully graduated from the university as a diploma holder. I'm very sure that some of them would come back if they are able to manage study leave, etc. So that is the idea of the multiple exit options that you provide, and a possibility of multiple entry that you create or you score. Now, within our institution, a credit transfer system would work, but if you want to implement it for across the board, across all educational institutions, then we have a huge challenge. And that huge challenge arises on account of the variability of the quality of higher educational institutions. And that could be addressed to a large extent by working towards mitigating the gap that presently exists between the best of our higher educational institutions and the rest of our higher educational institutions. If that happens, then this kind of seamless mobility across institution would take place. So long as it does not happen, there would be challenges. I'm very sure that they are trying to address these challenges through this new instrumentalities. And I think Professor Sancheti is present, and he would be perhaps speaking in more detail about this academic bank of credits that you go on accumulating credits from various institutions. And then you approach to an institution, or you approach to the very institution where you had initially taken admission to evaluate those credits that you had taken. And that institution would find some methods or some way to develop parity. And I think presently they are thinking about the way of developing this parity based on the quality of the institutions, which is based on the ranking or which is based on the accreditation scores. So I think they are trying to find ways and means to promote this idea of taking credits. Of course, in a lighter sense, there could be another way of interpreting this whole thing, that people can learn themselves, people can have prior learning which they may want to accumulate, people may learn from, say, various MOOCs platforms, or may even learn from various YouTube channels or Khan Academy kind of channels. So there are possibilities are enormous. So why should they be then bound to a particular university. They should be free to approach any university. That is a real inherent kind of apprehension that many people have. Then perhaps somebody might suggest, then why do they need to come to a university and burden the university with this evaluation process? We can in fact have a kind of higher education qualification recognition authority. I think these are all possibilities which are opening up as far as the seamless mobility, multiple entry and multiple exit, not only within the institutions, but also across all kinds of institutions would happen. As I said, that there are 2-3 preconditions for the success of this holistic higher education and multidisciplinary higher education. The first challenge is that we need to have large number of disciplines in the university. It means over a period of time, the kind of monodisciplinary universities or single department colleges and institutions that we have opened may not be able to provide these opportunities to their students. And that is why the National Education Policy insists that we need to either merge colleges or colleges themselves need to expand, or they need to form a cluster, and all universities should become multidisciplinary. So this is one challenge. Second challenge that we have is that this kind of systems to work need a very large number of faculty and a very large number of departments and disciplines which exist. And not only that you have a very large number of faculty, but you should have also the lab and the classroom infrastructure to allow students from many disciplines to join a particular course. Of course, we can never have an infinite number of teachers and infinite number of classrooms to have no constraints on this accounts. Even the best universities of the world face these constraints and have found many solutions. So in some universities of the US, you will find that when courses are opened for across disciplines, either they can have a policy of first come, first serve basis, or they can have a policy of merit-based, whereby the teachers of that department choose, or that teacher itself chooses whether these students should be permitted in this program. And I have also come across with one American university where they in fact auction a course of study. So they offer a program, they offer a course of study, and they say that this course is open for people of undergraduate from any disciplines. And if you want to study, you bid as to how much fees would you be willing to pay. And then you admit students who are the highest bidders or highest players. I'm not saying that we should be adopting this kind of approach in our country, but then the point that I'm making is that it requires to remove the constraints of classrooms and the constraints of faculty. Only then it would be possible to work. This multidisciplinary approach is also usable and also provide a kind of option to students, because sometimes students may find it inconvenient to attend their classes. Although we all say that now either you can study or you can do work, but we all know ourselves that there are many disciplines in which students are also simultaneously working and simultaneously attending the classes. And when there is a work time, they find it difficult to attend the classes. So this multidisciplinary approach allows students to choose courses which suits to their time. Similarly, I have seen some studies which say that all of the students of any universities never rate a particular teacher either as a best teacher or as a bad teacher. Some student would always say that some teachers are good or those teachers are good, and the other student would say that those teachers are not good. I think it's a matter of the psychological connect that a student develops with the teacher. Presently, in our system, we force students to study from in the classroom that we have designated, from the teacher who has been assigned to teach this course, and a student cannot choose in between. So these are the kind of flexibilities that are there. Finally, because I had been given time up to 3:45, finally, the word holistic has been used several times in the curricular developmental exercise. What does this holistic means? One way in which we can interpret is that people are exposed to a wide variety of disciplines, that is the multidisciplinary definition. But the another way in which holistic is taken, and that is the definition which most universities of the world follow, is that the education comprises of knowing the subjects, or that is the knowledge. Presently, our system is more focused on knowledge-based. We try to students to learn as much knowledge as is available in the books or what teachers give. But then it will not be holistic unless the students are also able to develop ability to apply those knowledge to real life situations. So along with knowledge, the skill and the application becomes a very important component for being holistic. And the third thing is the value of higher education. So knowledge, skill, value, which in many cases is also called as aptitude. So if these three things are combined in a program of study or in a course of study, then only we would be able to say that this knowledge is, or this program of study is providing a holistic kind of knowledge. There is also another assumptions relating to that, that when we teach in a class, we assume that students are also learning. There's an old joke that somebody claimed that I have taught my dog to speak. People were surprised. They said that how can you teach a dog to speak? You can do so for parrot or manna. But then this person insisted. And then some people said that, okay, let us take a test whether your dog can speak. And when they took the test, the dog was not able to speak. And then people said that you are a liar. You claim that you taught your dog to speak. He said, yes, I'm not a liar, but perhaps you did not listen to me properly. I never claimed that my dog also learned to speak. So there is a difference between teaching and learning. So our focus has been teaching, and our assumption has been that when we are teaching, people are learning. The world has gone past this idea, and they said that for learning to happen, it is a partnership between the student and the teacher. And I think we need to develop that kind of partnership. And what is that kind of partnership? That the outcome of a program would be measured in terms of the total students' efforts, which comprises of, say, 10 hours of teachers' efforts to make students learn, another 10 hours of a joint efforts between teachers and students. You can say that that is an old system of like tutorials. that used to exist, where teachers are not teaching, but the students are coming up to get their doubts, questions, problems solved, clarified. And then there would be another 10 hours for a course for the students to learn themselves. So it's a partnership between the teacher and the students, and the learning outcome should be measured in terms of these three metrics. And this, in order to happen, presently it's not happening. Policy is also about silent, but for the implementation of the holistic higher education, this has to be brought in, and therefore a new kind of definition of the credit will have to emerge. Presently, most universities did not have a credit system. Those who had the credit system learned it from the IITs, and IITs themselves had their original credit system learned from the country with whose collaboration they were established, so American or the British. And that was based on that a credit is equal to 1 hour of lecture and 2 hours of lab work and so on and so forth. But I think the most modern framework for the credit, which provides flexibility, is available from the European credit transfer system, which says that, say, one credit would be equivalent to 30 hours of total students' efforts. And as I said, that this total students' efforts would be the 10 hours of classroom lectures, 10 hours of individual interaction with the students, and 10 hours of students' works through assignments or through other work. And then in the real sense, the education would be holistic. I would just finish, because there have been so much of serious discussion, I'll just finish with a short story that in the name of holistic, let us not think that every student must study everything. In fact, the whole idea of the holistic and the multidisciplinary and the flexibility is that if 30 students have done MA economics from your university, mark sheets of the each students or grade card of the each student should look different. Somebody had done many courses in economics, but along with economics, he has also studied physics. Another student, along with economics, has also studied psychology, behavioral sciences, and then only a new kind of discipline would emerge. So it's not about making things compulsory for all students. And that reminds me, and that would be my last thing, of a story. There was a director of public instructions in the United States of America, and he was trying to reform in the early 19th century the education system, particularly the school education system. But then there was a lot of resistance from the school system, from the government, from all other agencies. And then this person wrote a graphic kind of a story called Animal School. And the story goes like that: the animals said that in order to survive in the new world, all animals need to learn some basic skills as compulsory skills. So they all must know how to run, to save themselves from the predators, how to climb trees, how to swim, and how to fly. And they admitted, so the curricula was developed accordingly. They admitted students, but then what they found was that the rabbit was a very good runner, but hated swimming. The turtle was very good in water, but didn't know how to climb a tree. and so on and so forth. So all animals were suffering and struggling because of the compulsory nature of this curricula, because of the assumption that these skills are needed by all students. But then the teachers cajoled them, the teachers taught them, and they all passed with some C grade or B grade that was acceptable. And who topped the batch? An abnormal eel, which neither had fully developed wings nor fully developed legs to walk on. And interestingly, outside that school, the bear and the badger and the dogs, they were sitting on protest, asking for the revision of in the curricula that barking and burrowing should also be included in the curricula. Otherwise, the curricula is unjust for our children. Let that not happen. So I think the basic spirit is leave the system, leave the people from this compulsory idea and give them freedom and choices to choose from. I think your kind of university, which has many disciplines on your campus, is best suited. The only thing is that you need to arrange your timetables and your classes and possibilities and work out rules whereby students could take credits from other departments beyond schools. Maybe just to try, just to begin with, you can say that, okay, up to 20% of the courses you can take university-wide, another 20% courses you can take school-wide, and then the remaining 60% you can take the department-wide, and that will be the degree that you will get from where you have taken bulk of the courses. All of these things sound easy to implement. Models are available. They are already being implemented. The only thing is that it requires detailing to be worked out. And I think these challenges has already been pointed out so well by Professor Sahasrabuddhe. So I'll stop here with thanks to each one of you for giving me this opportunity, and to congratulate the leadership and you all for taking this initiative of the leadership development and the faculty development on this critical dimensions for one whole week. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you so much, sir. It's always a pleasure to hear you out. And you have given insights, detailed and comprehensive one in a very lucid manner. So on behalf of Sharda University and the organizing team, please accept our heartfelt thanks and gratitude. Thank you so much, sir. And thanks to Professor Sahasrabuddhe as well. He has been very kind answering the questions in the chat box. So as we can save on time, sir, very kind of you. But let me quickly take one or two questions. This question is coming from Dr. Animate Singh and is directed to Professor Kamar. The question is, according to the National Education Policy 2020, students of the private schools will be introduced to English at a much earlier age than the students of the government schools. The academic syllabus will be taught in the respective regional language of the government school students. Will it not lead to a number of students uncomfortable in communicating in English, thus widening the gap between sections of the students? Sir.
Look, this is already happening. The national education policy perhaps does not emphasize on teaching in English language. Rather, again, there it also talks about options, but presently it does happen. And historically, it has been happening that there were some very elite schools where the rich and the feudal class would send their children to those schools. Later on, a large number of so-called private schools, English medium schools, etc., came in. So the private education, private schooling is mostly in the name of the English medium schooling. And most of the governmental systems are either in the Hindi medium or the regional languages or other home languages kind of schooling system. So the policy is not talking about the do away with English. It's already happening. And yes, I would agree to this extent that so long as we have this kind of a dual system, there is a problem. Because English somehow is associated as a lingua franca and a language for business and a language for job, etc. And therefore, those who come from those backgrounds have certain advantages. But lately, we are also seeing that people who have studied and learned in languages other than English languages, particularly the regional languages, they also have the advantages. Look at the advertising agencies, advertising and the media agencies. They need as much English language communicator as they need a Tamil or Telugu or a other language mediator. But yes, to some extent, I would agree with you that so long as a dual system exists, there is a problem. That is why the Kothari Commission had been talking about common school, but now it's been a long time, it has not been implemented. And I don't see any hope of this neighborhood common school coming up again. So the only solution then is that even these Hindi medium or regional medium schools should also focus on teaching English as a language. And it is possible for these students to become bilingual. I had listened to Professor Anil Sasabudde, who had once speaking in another program, who said that if students are the fast learner of the language, and it's easy and possible for them to learn many languages simultaneously at a very young age. So it is possible.
Thank you, sir. Another question is from Dr. Akhilesh Kumar, and I'll address it to Professor Sahasrabudde. Students of colleges in rural areas are way behind a bare minimum level of awareness. Also, their focus towards career development is not there. How can we help such students through the NEP for their career development? Sir.
Parulji, I have already replied most of the questions, but still, since it is asked orally, we need to educate, we need to reach out. And there are a variety of means that we can adopt and we should adopt. One is the medium of television, medium of radio. I think empowering and making rural area, tribal area students about the facilities that are available and what all they can do in the career development is an ongoing process. And we have reached, electricity to the last village reached only 2 years back. We had no electricity in many of the villages. We have reached. But reaching of the internet to every village has not happened yet. We might have reached 80%. Other 20% we still have to reach. And then to every home, every hamlet. I think we are in the process, and the whatever we call divide, digital or otherwise, has to be bridged. And only then everyone will get empowered, and such kind of programs can be then at the doorsteps of the students, through either mobile and the devices. We can't buy all of us probably devices, some people from the rural areas. So I've been appealing to many people from all cycles, circles, etc., that every middle class plus above individual has at least 2 or 3 smart mobile phones lying idle at home. Why don't you donate them, repair them and give them? Because I'm sure so many of them will be in working condition, because a new model comes, we buy a beautiful new Apple or some other device and then leave it out. Why can't we remove the data from that and give it as a donation to a poor child in our some school library, college library, and these people will get empowered. Same is the case with NASCOM. All these software industries change their computers every 3 years, new model. What will happen to the old? Lakhs of computers are changed by every organization, TCS, Infosys, Wipros of the world. Please donate it rather than selling it at low cost. Give it to the poor children. I think if you do that, the digital divide concept also will wash away. That will not remain. And I think we will be in a position to reach. Yeah, someone has written Common Service Center. Absolutely, Vaibhav. We have been promoting what we are doing, either in terms of hackathon. In Toy Hackathon, we reached out to all rural areas through these CSCs. And in the process, there were a lot of brilliant ideas based on our tradition, our textile, our food, our systems as games for the young children. I think these are the new toys. This is a $1.5 billion industry, which 80% of which we are importing today. See, how can we become Atmanirbhar unless a child from a tribal area, rural area also contributes to the development of new variety of toys which are interesting? I think that is what is a process which is not as fast as we want it, but it is happening. We need to accelerate it, and only then we can make it happen.
Thank you, sir. Thank you so much. And
Although this question was not addressed to me, but just one thing which
sir, go ahead.
perhaps I should have mentioned in my lecture itself, that I think a large section of our society is still rural based. People are desperate to get quality education for their children. I have seen villages in UP and Bihar where men are staying in villages and the women are staying in the nearby bigger towns only for the purpose of providing good education to schools. It means it is incumbent upon the government and all of us to do something drastic to improve the quality of school education in the rural areas. Otherwise, these people would continue to suffer. The second thing, and with due regards and apology to you, Professor Gudde Sahab, I know that you also agree with me on this count. There are some people who think that technology could be a substitute to teachers. And therefore, if we cannot make teachers to reach to the students, let knowledge reach through technology. That is the kind of approach which they are taking. If you see the vision documents of many world-class universities, they are all targeting to have more teachers, reduce the teacher-student ratio, because they have realized that technology cannot substitute teachers. Technology can be a good tool for improving quality, maybe for enhancing access for quality learning, but the teachers would be needed. And that is very much relevant for the school and colleges in the rural areas. We need to focus on these things. Of course, we should use technology, but we should strengthen these brick mortar and the human resource for the rural and the semi-rural areas. Thank you. And thank you for this time.
Thank you. Thank you so much, sir. We started with the quote that the purpose of education is not to fill, but to ignite. And going by the discussion in the chat box, I think we have partially succeeded. And thanks again to Professor Sahasbuddhe, Professor Kamal for sparing their valuable time and engaging in discussion and interaction. It has been a wonderful session so far, and we look forward to hearing you on many such occasions, sir. A heartfelt thanks to both of you. Thank you, sir.
Thank you very much, sir, for sparing your valuable time and wonderful deliberations. We have learned a lot.
Thank you, sir. So this brings us to the last segment of the day, and the topic is capacity building of faculty to formulation and implementation of a multidisciplinary liberal education framework. And to bestow us with this knowledge, we have among us Professor Sandeep Sancheti, Provost, Marwari University, Rajkot, Gujarat. Professor Sancheti is an institution builder, policy planner, regular columnist on various academic policies, promoter of sports in higher education, and well known for his intellectual strategic foresight. He holds a PhD from Queen's University of Belfast, UK, MSc Engineering from DTU Delhi, and BTech from NIT Warangal. He's also the past president of Association of Indian Universities. Formerly, Dr. Sancheti headed 8 central government institutions of national importance, thereby setting a record of being the exclusive one to have done so. As a unique distinction, he served in a variety of institutions like state and private universities, affiliated institutions, government and deemed universities, private deemed universities, and institutions of national importance. He has worked as director at various NITs and has also served as a member director for NIT Goa, NIT Puducherry, and NIT Sikkim in a career spanning more than 37 years. He's a recipient of the Commonwealth Scholarship and Fellowship under Colombo Plan and was a visiting faculty at Asian Institute of Technology, Bangkok. He's currently a member executive council at ACU London. He's also serving many professional bodies like SPIC-MACE, FICCI, CII, EPSI, Atal Innovation Mission in different capacities. In addition, he is on various national level bodies of UGC, AICT, and AIU for education-related matters and has been a part of Indian delegation abroad. He's a life fellow of IEEE, IESTE, BES, and a member of IEEE, and has contributed more than 85 research papers in journals and conferences.
Dr. Parul, can I interrupt you here?
Sir, I'm done. I know I'm done. And
That's
I hand it over to you, sir.
The important time which we have in hand. So thank you for this liberal introduction. And see, unfortunately, the same page is written and being sent, but the one who is using it can always prune it to the extent it's possible or required. So thank you for inviting me, Professor Rao. Thank you to the leadership of Sharda University. I'm also seeing Professor Furkan Kamar on the screen right now. We have been colleagues for a long time, worked together on various fronts, and probably Sir Buddhe Saab also. I'm not sure whether he's continuing or not. And all the other distinguished academicians. A very good evening to all of you. And I'm very happy to share my thoughts on capacity building of faculty, particularly for multidisciplinary liberal education framework. Unfortunately, I could not join you a little earlier to know the views which were expressed by Professor Sasibuddhe as well as Professor Furkan Kamar, except for the last part of Professor Furkan Kamar, I was there. So I may be excused for that in case I'm repeating something or I'm contending something here and there, directly or indirectly. We all are very, free birds, you can say. We have our own thoughts and ideas, but broadly, we are in sync in what is happening through NEP and what is happening through technology and what is needed for the faculty. So I'll try to share some of my views, my dear friends. Allow me to use the PowerPoint presentation. I have probably a little bit more than what one should have in terms of presentation here, which I prepared for you, but I'll try to squeeze it into 45 minutes by compromising some slides here and there. So can I go into the presentation mode, Madam Parul?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir, it is.
Okay, I'll try to bring my presentation on now. Okay, and I'll try to make it full screen also. Yeah. Is it full screen now? Fine.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, there will be a little bit of challenge for me to see my own screen because of some of the windows which will be sitting here and there. So pardon me for that. So I'll be talking about this capacity building, the topic or the responsibility given to me by Sharda University leadership. And we'll just see what can be done and how it can be attempted and what are the dimensions of that. Not necessarily that all the solutions which I'm trying to give are going to work. As I think Professor Kamar was saying, technology can be of great use, but it is not necessary that technology is what will drive everything. Teachers will be important, and the use of technology effectively by teachers will be even more important. So in that light, probably try to get some of the views from me on this topic of capacity building. So I've highlighted 3 points here in red, if you can see, and these are the points mentioned in the NEP as the need of NEP or the key drivers for the change for the education system. Rigid separation of disciplines, limited teacher and institutional autonomy, and lesser emphasis on research knowledge generation. I think these are the key things which teachers want or teachers need to do. And therefore, we are talking about the faculty, and we are also talking about the liberal framework of the faculty and how to develop them and how to strengthen them. Other things are the weaknesses of the previous system or education system. We are not too much worried about those points in this particular case. Similarly, I'll go to some of my own assessments in terms of SWOT. My own assessment of SWOT of Indian higher education. If I have to say something about the strength is the numbers, and it's growing fast, growing leaps and bounds. I think last 2, 3, 4 years, we have seen something like 300 universities which have come up in India, and the GER is also going up hugely in last 10 years. So in terms of strength, that there is a need and there is a scope for education is what we are possibly talking about right now. In terms of weaknesses, if I may say, that we are a very slow moving entity. Rest of the weaknesses are also there, but I have highlighted one. We are very slow moving entity, and environment is changing very fast. And therefore we need to sync ourselves or match things as far as the changes are concerned. Education system probably for a long time did not change much or did not adopt much of technology compared to the rest of the fields, and therefore this is a weakness. Similarly, if I look for the opportunity, I think a lot of investment which can come in higher education, probably it will give a lot of opportunity in terms of growth and quality and other things. Right now, that is too tight for us to really do anything substantial. And of course, other aspects of opportunities lie in the research. I generally presume that our teaching part is fairly taken care. Our graduates are very sought after world over, and therefore teaching part is generally taken care in terms of high quality, I'm saying. And then of course there are other opportunities in terms of what you can call as foreign collaborations and other things. Now, if I go to the challenges, obviously challenges in terms of educational domain, I think the biggest, particularly faculty domain, is that the good quality students do not want to come to teaching as a career they don't adopt. That's the biggest challenge, how to lure them, how to bring them into this fold, how to tell them that teaching life can be very good, very long, very diverse, and very autonomous to some extent, and various other things, features which are there. And then, of course, very satisfying also in many, many ways. So these are some of my own SWOT in addition to the SWOT which was given, or the challenges which are given in the education system. So what are the answers which the NEP itself has given, or some of us have given ourselves, or NEP has also given, both you can say put together. Me and Professor Furkan Kamar did meet the Professor Kasturi Rangan committee also to give some of our inputs when the policy was being framed. So I'm sure some of those were useful, and some of them have found space here and there in the NEP policy. So in any case, they continue with access, equity, quality, accountability, transparency, and all that. That's very fine. My dream is that if NEP can drive speed, efficiency, and diversity, it will be a wonderful thing. Diversity is what they are addressing through multidisciplinarity, and that is what you are also talking about today. I'm very happy that we'll be discussing something about multidisciplinarity. Of course, we need to be customer-centric, as in most cases. So it will be student-centric education we're talking about. The timing and the 3 years and 4 years or whatever it may be can be exchangeable and should be open as per the student's choice rather than our own choice. Online and open distance learning, etc., should be given its due because it helps the lifelong learning aspects which are important. Multidisciplinary has anyway come. Importance of skills and vocational credits and courses are also important. So is the case with the internationalization. Friends, I have listed these points only for reference that NEP is talking about them, and NEP is giving us some directions in that, and they will be useful in building what we call this capacity building here, or bringing whatever you can say the liberal education framework as you have suggested in the topic. Similarly, some points of multiple entry and multiple exit. Particularly, it also allows you the change of track. I can go from science to commerce, or commerce to something, arts, whatever it may be, management, and so on and so forth. Languages are important. I think last few points talking about the languages, and Professor Kamar was answering some of those questions. Industry relevance or industry connect is very, very important. Now, recently, the blended teaching learning importance is highly important, in my opinion, for the simple reason that many subjects you can deliver in a very effective way. You can save time, you can bring accuracy. I still remember when I was a student in first year, I was being taught mechanical engineering subject and steam engine was being taught. For half an hour, the poor teacher will keep drawing the steam engine on the board and trying to explain some finer points. And by the time the class would be over and students will be mischievous inside the class because the teacher is purely looking at the blackboard. So the point is, when you use the blending, suddenly you can bring all those aspects very nicely through animation or through simulations or whatever it may be, through modeling and other things. So blended would be very important. Education should also think about adult and mature learners, because 25 to 75, I cannot take education sitting in the class all the time, but I have to learn and unlearn and relearn. And therefore I should be given a track which is more for mature learner who has already done graduation, but wants to learn something new. Examination reforms are very, very important in terms of our functioning and our assessment. It will improve the teacher's role also, and it will make the teacher also distinguish between good, bad, right, wrong in terms of student performance. And fortunately, one academic bank of credit has also been talked about, and which gives a lot of answers. It amalgamates lots of points which I've already highlighted here in terms of what can be done and what should be done. So let's come to teaching now and multidisciplinary teaching, and let's come to some of the points of liberal education framework. I've just jotted down a few things from here and there. I'm not necessarily an expert of all that, but obviously we need to use them as and when we would like to that. So a few learning processes which can be there is generating ideas, brainstorming, concept and mind mapping, etc. Creative presentations, exposure to the real world, case study or studies, cooperative learning studies. These are some of the terminologies which have been used by the education domain people from time to time. Problem solving, projects and internship. Last three anyway, to some extent we are doing. Last two are formally kind of included in most of the education programs, particularly for engineering projects and internships, but not necessarily all the above ones. And therefore one can amalgamate many, many processes in teaching learning. It's not simple blackboard or whiteboard or classroom teaching or the OHP or slide projection or whatever you do. A PowerPoint is sufficient now. You need to do much beyond that. These will be the learning process. What will be the good practices for teaching learning? I think the real need for why teaching learning be defined differently is because we are coming out of that age called data, where data was important. Data is still important, but data leads to information. Information leads to knowledge. Knowledge probably leads to wisdom, and wisdom should have a relevance. Otherwise, there is no point in wisdom. And finally, once everything is there, it should be an impact-making thing, and that's the kind of cycle within which we need to be doing the teaching learning. So don't necessarily just deliver the knowledge and be satisfied. Make sure that they acquire the foresight. They acquire where, when, how to apply, and so on and so forth. And then see the relevance in the context of where they are living or where they are supposed to work. And is it impactful? So let the teaching learning also become an outcome oriented. Impact is nothing but an outcome. Relevance is anyway the context, as we are trying to say here. So all that is what I have listed here: blended teaching learning, flipped classrooms, practice-based classes, design orientations, research orientation at all level. Why only UG and why only PG or why PhD? It can be at all level, that you can allow them to think and find out solutions and all that. Student centricity, varied pace of learning. Every student cannot be same. I think this is what was said in the earlier discussion. Everyone cannot be given the same one-size-fits-all formula, and therefore varied pace of learning, outcome orientation, better evaluation strategies, more and active feedback, possibly a feedback after every class that what I taught today, was it learned effectively or not? What was wrong with my teaching? What was right with my teaching? Probably will be very nice. And use of AI tools. I think all of us should have an open mind to do that. I was quite impressed by a guy 2 years back when I went to US. And he showcased that he is handling a class of 500 students. And he's a young guy, he's just less than 5 years of teaching professional age, you can say. And he said that he's handling a class of 500 students very, very effectively, because he said he uses some of these tools and connects with them. And from that, he knows who's a slow learner, who's a fast learner, who should be given a different reference, or what kind of problems they're encountering. And then they are using certain other tools to understand whether the student is attentive or not. So there are a variety of applications which are there for AI tools, in addition to the examination thing where we have started using it already. So these are some of the good practices of teaching learning. I'm sure you will understand what is the importance of all these things, what we are doing. So I come to some dreamy things, dreamy stuff, what a student would like to know or like to dream when it comes to education. So I'm not going to spend too much of time, but this will be an expectation of a student, requirement of a student, that I should be able to pick my teachers and timings. I should be able to frame my own courses, what I want, advanced or slow or whatever, design my own degrees that I need not necessarily. I'll give you examples of that a little later. Study through any mode. I can do it in the online or DTH mode or web mode or physical class to class mode or distance mode, whatever those modes may be there. And then similarly, when I'm doing my education learning in that mode, I should be able to write exams also in some flexible mode. So examinations on demand whenever I'm ready. So these kind of things would be a part of educational transformation, and teachers will have to deliver that. And that's why I brought it here. The teachers will have to facilitate all those things in terms of what a student would want. Similarly, for teachers, what might be the functional transformation a teacher would want? I would possibly say I should be able to go to a department of my choice. I might have done degree in electrical, and I might have done my master's in electronics, and I might have done my PhD in computer science. I should be able to choose which is the best suited department for me, rather than an institution does that and says that, no, because your basic degree is in electrical, you go to electrical. I think those kind of things are subjects of my choice when I become a teacher, so that I can effectively deliver, and then I become more confident and solid. Similarly, deliver through chosen modes. Some parts can be done by a good demonstration or animation, some by something virtual lab, something can be by theory, derivations, something can be by various other visits and all that. So best of modes I should be able to choose. And then of course, assess also through variety of modes. It's not necessary that I only take written examination. It can be Viva, it can be continuous evaluation of different kinds, which can be there. It can be project based, and all that also can happen. And then of course, for my own career, because I need to do as a teacher, research as well as teaching, both of them, I should be able to decide what is my profile. Am I 70% in research and 30% in teaching, or vice versa, or 100% in teaching and nothing in research? And my institution should be able to assess me on those. So these are the things which a teacher would require, in my opinion. And why I'm narrating and giving all these to you is because these are the changes which one would expect in times to come. I've also indicated some adjectives or some names here to a role play of teacher or a faculty now. A teacher will not remain a teacher or a faculty. Some of the names I'm not going to read all that what I've written here, but I'll say that the role of a teacher is from knowledge provider. We used to just deliver the knowledge or information, you can say. From that, we have to become a coach and a mentor. Not only that, in addition, we can be a facilitator, we can be guide, we can be enabler in anything student wants to do. And most importantly for me would be, I should be a co-learner as a faculty. I should also learn while I'm teaching. I think that's very, very important. Another thing which you can say, a teacher can be a creator, a designer, a supporter. So there are many roles which are there. You can probably keep on adding those things as counselors and mentors, and the list is endless. Teacher should be an entrepreneur also. So teaching domain is changing. Teacher should be a problem solver. Teacher should be able to kind of analyze and then give feedbacks and help build capacity in a variety of forms. So these are all the things which we are talking about teacher's role. So teacher now should be multidisciplinary in his or her functioning, and multitasking also, and variety of other things a teacher would require. The plain old teacher, probably like plain old telephone, will cease to exist. The telephone has multiple functionalities, so would be the case with the teacher now. So what will be the strengthening framework, faculty strengthening framework we would expect? I would say that some of the things which I have done here probably will be useful to strengthen your faculty, whether in Sharda University or Marwadi University or anywhere. I think number one, I would try to push my faculty to engage in faculty industry immersion program, so that their industrial connect or relevance or societal connect becomes very good. I can give much more details about this, but right now I'll refrain. I would also be very happy to have faculty purely for research who will drive my research and new knowledge and development and excitement and all that. I've seen in some parts of India and outside also, people choose this track, though they become faculty, but they deliver and generate new knowledge. So research driven. I will also engage adjunct and visiting faculty from industries outside or institutions outside and give them joint appointments. Half the week they will be there, half the week they will be here, and they will do both the things. Same thing will be true for the industry also. I would also be very happy, like most of the advanced institutions try to do. They engage a lot of international faculty. You know, Indians are there in bulk in every institution, in top institutions world over. Reason for that is they accept and adopt international faculty very easily. Diversity and newness and relevance becomes better with that. And finally, a faculty abroad program. Always send people outside your own shell. Don't make them the frog of their own well and say that I'm very good in my institution. Once you go outside, you open your eyes and ears and all senses. Let me also tell you my own story that 1991, after 6-7 years of teaching, I didn't have much of exposure, but once I went to UK as a Commonwealth scholar, things completely changed. When I went there, I was lacking confidence like anything. And once I came from there, I knew that we are one of the best, and we are second to not bad or not second to anyone in that sense. So that's the framework you should have in mind for developing your faculty. Now I come to the most important slide of this presentation. If you like, pay attention and understand why multidisciplinarity. What is right and wrong is your judgment. But what I would like to impress upon you is multidisciplinary is basically removal of watertight silos for specializations. I already gave you example of electrical, electronics, and computers. Let me give you another example of physics, chemistry, and possibly materials and metallurgy. These are the domains where materials are common. And I've seen many times very good, bright faculty members with postdoctoral and publication and projects are not being accepted by any department in my institution purely because they say, sir, his degree is in physics, now he's doing this and now he's doing that, and he's not a materials man and he's not a metallurgy man and all that. But please understand, we have to remove these tight silos. I just give you an example. 25 years back, I came across a gentleman called Vijay Garg, and he was a gentleman, faculty, very renowned person who had done BTech in civil engineering. When he became faculty, he started teaching mechanical engineering, and then he moved to electronics engineering teaching. Finally, he did a lot of research for Bell Labs in mobile communications, starting with 1G, 2G, whatever those Gs which were there, and wrote books up to 5G, if I'm not wrong. And his books, which were written by the costliest publisher I have known in my domain, Artec House, were the most famous. So what I'm saying is, if people can do such things, why cannot others try that? Now I come to the second example. Nobel Laureate of Indian origin. Don't go with the exactness of the details, but see this essence of it. He was UG in physics and PG in physical chemistry. He probably did something more work here and there. Another UG in biology, then PhD is biochemistry, professor of molecular biology, and finally Nobel in chemistry. I think this is a person of Indian origin. You all know about him. You can read about him on Wikipedia. Is he not depicting and telling us something about the interdisciplinarity and its importance? It's a different matter that initially he had to suffer a lot. He was not very easily acceptable to the world in terms of jobs and employability or whatever. And he had to start his work from probably some average institutions to begin with, but later he went to best of the best also. But it's an example to tell you that anything can be done and interdisciplinarity has its own value. Similarly, I will say that suppose I'm a student today and I come to study in Sharda University, and I know that I'm going to go and run my father's business, which is of a chemical company. I would not like to read traditional engineering of any nature. I would like to do courses on chemistry and chemical engineering because it will be useful for my father's business, industrial production because he's producing some products, finance and probably e-marketing, because these will be very useful to run my business, and then I can make my degree. I'm challenging you today. No one is offering a course which will encompass all these specializations to give me a degree. And I would like to study whatever I want to, because that's my desire and I know my direction very, very clearly. Similarly, I give you another example, film and music industry. If I want to get into that, I will do courses on music. I will do courses on electronics. I will do courses on filmmaking, performing arts, and journalism to make my degree, rather than going to electronics and communication or only performing arts, because they are all related. They have importance. Today, everything in terms of this domain of music is related to electronics and e-marketing and whatever other such distributions which are there. And therefore, why not let the students study what they want? So multidisciplinary is of this particular nature. However, many students will come to your institution, will not know that what to study and how to choose these courses. Let them go for a standard program, and as and when they become mature and choose to change the direction in second year or third year or fourth year, let them do it. Don't bind them into something which is just a standard prescription. I think Furkanji was trying to say something in the end about that. Similarly, suppose there are some tough subjects. You probably will know electromagnetic field theory and thermodynamics are considered to be two toughest subjects in domain of engineering. Many students fail in that and they don't graduate. They are laggards and they don't get a degree. Why not allow them 2-3 another courses in lieu of these things, and don't give them engineering degree. Don't give them a degree of electronics or whatever, chemical engineering. Doesn't matter. But at least give them a degree because they have learned something. They have earned sufficient credits. I think that is what multidisciplinary education says. And by the way, in ABC, we had projected something of this nature, that Bachelor of Liberal Education can come. And finally, there are many students who cannot understand anything about that. The institutions themselves can create the multidisciplinary route. You can give standard description to a multidisciplinary rather than the tight foundation which you have. And then from that, you can say that you can choose something. So the point I'm trying to make to you, my dear friends, is that multidisciplinary can be understood, can be delivered, and can be useful in many, many forms which are there. And in relevance to multidisciplinarity, I would say ABC has come into existence. It has already been announced on 28th of July. The rules, regulations, and whatever is the provisions for that by UGC, it has been announced. On 29th, our Honorable Prime Minister also talked about that. And this is a broad definition of ABC. I am not going to go into that. Whatever points I've told you till now probably can be covered under the framework of ABC. What it basically means is the credits will be the new currency. Credits will be recognized, accumulated, transferred, redeemed. Credit will be a currency-like thing. And you don't want to spend your currency, you will retain credits. Otherwise, you can convert them into degrees and diploma, and so on and so forth. So Academic Bank of Credit will be a new framework which will be working on the similar principle broadly of NAD, but not exactly NAD. NAD is only a depository, but this will be transitory in nature. Therefore, this is slightly different. So it will be a service mechanism for all of us. With that, I can go to multiple institutions, use multiple languages, do multiple levels, and be in national and international domain, change directions and speed of my education, and everything which you can think a student would desire, which I showed you in the earlier slides, will possibly happen through this. And then ultimately, I can convert them into whatever diploma, degrees, certificates, or anything which I want. And this will also give me a multiple entry, multiple exit kind of a facility. Friends, I can go on this particular subject for hours, but because of time restriction, I'll keep moving. So these are some of the objectives of the ABC scheme, which will facilitate multidisciplinarity. As you can see, a student can choose best of courses or combination as per his or her desire. They can tailor their degree rather than getting a standard BTech or BSc. They can tailor the degree and get some other degree. They can do multiple entry and multiple exit also. Teaching learning can happen in the blended mode. I can take one course from Sharda University in face-to-face mode. I can go to Jamia Millia for one online course. I can come to Marwari for one distance. And I can do all these things simultaneously. That is a real possibility under the ABC scheme. So blended can happen. Obviously, ABC is for anytime learning, anywhere learning kind of a thing, any mode learning, and therefore it can be synchronous, asynchronous. This can be in various other forms, full-time, part-time, and therefore it will facilitate what we call lifelong learning. And ABC also allows students to choose their academic directions and various other things. All those things can also happen. And just to understand the framework of ABC, I'll just say the important things about ABC is any subject combinations, any mode of delivery, any time of learning, any space of learning, national or international. And then, of course, credit will be the new phenomena or new aspect of considering what you have been educated on or what you have learned. And then finally, you can get the degrees like Bachelor of Liberal Education. Ultimately, if you see in this slide, all the current notions of education are changing. Notion of specialization is broken by the subject combination. Notion of mode is broken by the merging of regular distance and all that. Notion of time, pass, slow, and multiple entry exit is by lifelong learning. Study in national, international is the space concept is broken. The various other things which are there, the types of degrees changed by the Bachelor of Liberal Education. So like this, you'll find the teachers will have to deliver all these things. Now, please understand, if you are looking at capacity building is not the classroom delivery, not the standard prescription which you write, someone writes as a course or content or syllabus and a scheme, and then you start doing it from day one. That would not be good. You will have to deliver something equivalent of ABC, and therefore your capacity should be built around that you can do that. Another feature which I would possibly like to emphasize would be that you will need a lot of internationalization. Internationalization basically means diversity. Don't take it literally that I want foreign faculty. I basically mean lot of diverse set of inputs. But I would say that there are some efforts already on. Foreign education bill was there for a long time. It didn't see light of the day, but NEP is formally permitting it. Globalization of workforce is there in most of the top institutions of the world. It should happen in India. It possibly can make the affordability also better in certain cases, that if international faculty comes here, I don't have to run or send my awards to international domain to study the best thing they can. Partly they can do it here, partly they can go outside, so affordability can improve. The rankings and ratings can improve with the internationalization. Pockets of excellence can be created, which are generally not there much in India right now in terms of research or new knowledge. They can happen. Collaboration has become important in teaching and research. We have seen, particularly during COVID times, COVID demands, that everyone does research on what you call vaccinations or various other designs of masks and shields and ventilators and whatnot. So the collaboration happened, and this collaboration should now percolate to other domains also. I think those are the things which are there. And I must say that since I'm talking about it, we are practicing it in the Marwadi University. We are a young university of 5 years old, but we already have representative students from 38 countries here. So that's the importance we give in terms of student. But now we should give more importance in terms of faculties and other things also. And then you know that knowledge is not the property of any specific country. It used to be considered as US and UK are very good in machining and fabrication, mechanical. UK is good in the biotech or the medical arenas. Then the things shifted to South Korea in terms of expertise for mobile and other communication. Israel, we know, is a huge power in terms of research and development and innovation. And so is the case with the Taiwan in all electronic manufacturing, in China, now once again all over. So please understand that these domains will not remain fixed with any country, whether it's India or anyone. It will keep moving, and therefore we need to collaborate with each one of them to move with the wave. The wave is going up in this direction. We should be having some connect with that so that we can survive and we can also do good work which are there. And then, of course, new jobs are going to be in the international domain, which may be demanding many things about the international domain and so on and so forth. So all in all, you can say that internationalization will be something very important once again, and I've already advocated for that. The faculty should be exposed with some sort of an internationalization, in my opinion, and therefore I'm making a point. And some of the education models which are there for the internationalization are like this, as you can see here. Foreign degrees, of course, is a useful internationalization, but very costly. Exchange program, semester abroad program, many institutions like IITs and IIMs, possibly in SRM and VIT and Manipal, they are doing it in big numbers. Short-term programs for experiential learning, 50 days, 1 credit, learn about the life in India, learn about the life in UK, US, possibly can be done. So those courses are there. Then recently, a lot of popular models of 3+1, 2+2. IKS model of Manipal is very, very famous. A lot of students go for that. Integrated and twinning programs are there. Joint PhDs have become very common with IITs and NUS and NTU and Australian and US universities. I was in one of the programs where Prime Minister himself launched the IIT Bombay and IIT Madras joint PhD program with NTU in Singapore. So these programs have become very famous. Distributed campuses, SP Jain is doing the management program. Part of it is taught in Mumbai, part in possibly in Dubai, and part in Australia or wherever it might be. So distributed campuses. And then, of course, the challenges which we face in India right now are the unstable policy frameworks, which are causing challenges right now. But once again, the ABC can be a solution, that it is opening up the Indian education to receive the foreign, these things. So what I'm trying to tell you is international things can be done in a variety of ways. You don't have to do all the systems, all the models, but whatever suits you best or your students best or your partners best, possibly you can take a call on that. And that is the international education model, which I was suggesting. Why I'm saying is it's important both ways. Faculty should also go and teach and spend there, even if you're not getting paid or whatever, for the heck of exposure or knowing the world. You should try to do something as a service also, is my opinion, strong opinion. And I'm sure others will also do to us, and therefore will save the cost, but will still learn a lot. Similarly, an industry connect is very, very important. If you remember, I said something about FIIP, Faculty Industry Immersion Program. If you have to build the faculty's strength, industrial knowledge is something, or relevance is very important. Just bookish knowledge will not help us. And therefore, I put an element of Industry Institute Connect also. It can be called as Industry Institute Interaction. Many other names are given to this. And this is most desirable, in my opinion, in the current context, because innovation, entrepreneurship, research, development, technology transfer, patent, publications can all be driven by that. Whether you like it or not, unfortunately, these are the benchmarks for your ranking and rating. All right. So was the case with the internationalization in ranking and rating, but with the industry also. So please give it its own due. I don't mind if my faculty takes a leave and spends 3 months, 6 months, or two weeks in industry. I'll be very happy. I generously support that, even with the full salary and financial also. In certain cases, we have gone to a model which was even a year or 2 year also. And then, of course, advanced world has become advanced by using the potential of industry institute interaction. Particularly in US example, we know that a lot of happening research happen in the educational institutions. Why? Because the uncluttered mind of young people with a lot of potential, time and energy is available in the educational institutions, and that's what they use, and therefore they become cost effective and more productive. We should do it. In India, of course, industries are not very advanced, or they don't have a culture of research, etc. But I'm sure they are also changing. Some difficulties arises in terms of we are non-profit, they are profit, and that makes the life complex. But hopefully, that can also be overcome by government creating certain models, professional companies where we can invest and earn profit and substantiate our income and all that. Those things are also there. And similarly, there are challenges that industries generally work on short-term objectives. If they have a challenge today, they want a solution tomorrow. Whereas institutions work on the long-term objective that give me a problem. After 2 years, I'll give you a well-defined research outcome that how this can be done. So those challenges are there. However, both sides are desiring to have a better relationship and various other things which are happening in this particular domain, as you can possibly see here, that these are the things which are coming up in a big way. And finally, an important thing about this is that the industries themselves are coming in the education sector in a big way. You know the examples of Lakshmi Nivas, Mittal, or JP Noida, or Thapar Group, or Reliance, and then Wipros and various other institutions. The reason for that is they understand the importance of this kind of a connect, in my opinion, and that's why they are coming. and they get to take advantage of that. So what can be the building blocks of an industry institute connectivity? You can say, in my opinion, these will be like this. One, we should be able to share the infrastructure and resources. Particularly, educational institutions get all the softwares at a much lower cost and all the hardwares typically at 50%, whereas industry don't get. They can do that, it will be a win-win situation. Similarly, faculty and industry expert exchanges can be very good both ways. It can seed the research, innovation, development, everything. The student project and internships can be used to target a lot of manpower to do productive and relevant research or development. And that is something very useful for industry. In India, industry is also not very well geared to use all that, and neither are we. So we are talking about it, but let's do it. Similarly, industrial and societal problem solving. And these days, AICT has started pushing for internships and whatnot. And similarly, various other things in terms of policy making, planning, and other things we can also do together with them. And then research, development, innovation can all be driven. So these are some of the building blocks where IIC can flourish. Friends, I have lots of inputs and details on this variety of models with its efficacies and do's and don'ts. But I've covered internationalization and IIC only 2 slides to give you a picture of broad things and to impress upon you that these are important things for faculty. If faculty is not doing it, faculty will not be growing much, in my opinion. So finally, I come to last 1 or 2 points from my side in driving it. Is technology driving everything? Yes, there was a point in the last discussion. Can technology be everything or not? I don't mind whatever way this discussion goes. But I certainly know that when steam engine came, motive power, industrialization happened, flying machines came, nuclear technologies came, variety of other things came, electronics came. The world saw a physical change, a societal change, political change, financial change, relational change, functional change, geographical change, everything. The wave continues, the change is happening. I don't know what is happening in Afghanistan right now, but the wave is continuing of the change. The reasons may be physical, political, social, whatever, intellectual, I'm not bothered. What I'm saying is they are all connected with the industry, technological world somehow. The world wars happened because the nuclear, because such technologies came. The world war stopped because the nuclear technology came, though it did a lot of damage, but it stopped also. So on and so forth, many things are there. What I'm seeing is the recent developments in technology called semiconductors, computers, internet, mobile, and now energy, the solar and transportation, EV, and biotech and artificial intelligence are going to be defining the new world order in terms of living, connectivity, costing, and applicability of certain things. In any case, 3 or 4 out of them are considered to be the best ever innovations and inventions of the world all around amongst these semiconductors and computers and internet. So you can understand the impact of technology which is there. Education may be a slow-moving technology, but it cannot remain untouched with the technology. The very fact that last 1.5 years we are taught and examined students mostly through technology speaks about itself. And therefore, you can say that technology will drive whatever a teacher does. Technology will be the shadow of the teacher, or teacher will be the shadow of the technology, will be decided by the teacher, not the technology, but technology will be there, is for sure from my side. So I just give you an example how a teacher will have to take the examinations possibly in the times to come. Teaching, learning you can do effectively. How would you change the face of examinations? The face of examinations, obviously continuous internal evaluations. You are anyway knowing about it. Another thing will be online things, anywhere, anytime, in virtual labs and skill-based and all that. So online also we have started doing, but laboratory can also happen through that, will be important. Open book, we all know that we have, but we have not been able to implement it. Open book will be important because it is the real life situation. All my examinations later, once I have graduated in my company where I'm working, will be an open book examination system and not a closed book. And therefore, we have to take that. We have to create common central facilities like examination cafes or academic cafes where third party can deliver the internet and the bandwidth and the devices, which seems to be a problem. And by the way, NIC centers are there at lowest level in the country now, and they can be further extended with the good connectivity. and make sure that every 5 or 10 kilometers distance or 100 kilometers distance, not more than that, you have beautiful facilities called examination cafes or academic cafes and all that. We should also be able to deliver examinations on demand, which is very, very important, because when I am ready, I eat food. When I'm ready to move out, I travel. So is the case when I'm ready to learn, I come to an institution. So should be the case with me when I'm ready to appear in the examination. Examination on demand should happen. And finally, group evaluations to develop teamwork and raise the average performance of bar of performance. Group evaluations can also happen. So these are some of the techniques or changing phases of the examinations which are there. And I come to possibly last couple of slides. What are the new technologies which are now already being used in the education in the current scenario, and teachers will have to embrace them, right or wrong, I'm not saying, will have to embrace them. Like, I cannot be in a kitchen without a cooker or a gas or something of that particular nature. I cannot be traveling without an automobile, or I cannot be connecting with you without a mobile. Same is the status of the teaching now. We should be in a smart classroom. This technology we are using, we should be able to use text to speech and speech to text. If I'm unable to understand your style of speaking or pronunciations or whatever speed of speaking and all that, I can use these things. I can use these things for appearing in the examination. If I'm handicapped and I'm unable to write my examination, I can simply speak in my examination and give my examination. I can do biometric eye tracking so that once again, I can be assessed, or I need not, as a teacher, waste my time in invigilating. In most cases, I've done some average study here and there that half a day will be going in a week per teacher per week in terms of invigilation overall in a year. And if you have these kind of things, teachers don't have to waste their precious time. We can also learn a lot of through social networking, and all these Khan academies and other things are nothing but similar networks of that kind. Collective learning, Wikipedias are there. Then 5G and cloud technologies are being used, and they allow you to expand. Today, if I have to expand my institution, make the capacity double, I think these technologies will be very useful. You remember IITs, when the oversight committee's recommendation came, they were very unhappy with the expansion required for them. But all of a sudden, last year before last year, you saw IIT Madras is starting a BSc data science course, and the registration numbers, you'll be surprised, 30,000 students registered there. And imagine the growth and the expansion. It's all because of the technology. And 3D printing allows you to visualize many things, fabricate many things, test many things, create and recreate. These technologies are being used already. I come to technologies which will be in the future. I don't think so I have time to explain to you all the points which are there. AI anyway will grow and grow and grow, become more, and will be omnipresent. Teaching learning will have to be through game-based. We don't like mobiles in our classes, but now we'll have to back to our students, not only mobile, bring Xboxes, PlayStations, and we'll teach you something more. We'll also use the flexible LCD display, so there'll be no bag, basta, book, copy, anything. Everything will be on the flexible display. It can be opened as a table. You can write your examination, you can take your notes, capture videos, transfer data, do anything, look at the internet and learn about the subject, whatever you want. This will be the reality there. Augmented reality, virtual reality will be immersive learning, deeper learning. History-like subject can be taught by teaching you the Yuddh of, let's say, Haldi Ghatika Yuddh or Plasika or whatever it may be, or creating the Darbar of Akbar and all that. You can teach all that. Wearable devices will come. So every person will be embedded with the devices. Right now, we don't wear them, but it's there in the pocket. But now it will be on the body, it will be inserted and so on and so forth. And therefore, there will be multiple computing storage and other things. And finally, the lecture or the address which I'm giving to you right now, you are seeing me in 3 dimensions. You are not happy. You call it as a screen and virtual mode and all that. Very soon, holographic presence will be there, which will make me 3D. You will be able to look at Sandeep Sancheti or Furqan Qamar in 3D model, or Professor Rao also, and you'll feel happy that you are in physical mode and eye contact is there. So it will minimize the undue physical travel and the cost associated with that. These are the technologies we'll have to adopt, my dear, as teachers. Okay, so my prescription to my teachers is like this. Take it as a prescription if you like. If you don't like, you can say that I don't like my doctor, doesn't matter. My prescription can be sitting somewhere sideways. I have suggestion for all the faculties who are listening to me right now. that we should do faculty development program in a 5-year cycle. And in each year, first year can be my content development and delivery so that I can develop new subjects and develop better contents. Second year, I can do something for seeding my research and strengthening my research. Third year, I can do improvement on my pedagogy or delivery. Fourth year, I can learn more about impactful technologies and things of that particular nature, how to create animations and how to create various other things. Many of us would not know how to create websites. So can I create something, put my material, control my material and all that? So technologies. And the last thing is, how do I connect with the social and industrial? So those who are offering these 5 different types of faculty development programs, you should do once in each every year. And then once again, once 5 years are over, you repeat another 5-year cycle so that you are rejuvenating yourself. You are doing one FDP every year in a 5-year cycle, and you will remain in touch with all the important aspects of what we need to do. Whether you are doing this in India, outside India, online, offline, doesn't matter. This is my prescription to all my faculty members, that how would you build your capacity? How will you remain enriched and relevant? I think this is my suggestion. So friends, I come to the conclusion, and the conclusion is that the education is a slow moving in terms of quality and various other things which we know, technology, etc. But multidisciplinary education will be the new flavor, and with multiple entry and multiple exit. Adoption of technology in teaching, learning, and examination, which was poor, would be now a happening thing. So these are from the perspective of some common aspects. Now, liberal education like ABC would be omnipresent, which will deliver anytime, anywhere, any mode, any language, any speed, and many specializations kind of you can say any specialization also you can add, and that will be the flavor of liberal education. Aspects of what I said, industry institute connect or industrial internationalization or societal connect will be important if what a teacher has to be relevant. So think about that. And finally, faculty development programs and capacity building will be critical for all the important things, particularly for all the successes and NEP implementation. And that is the reason why NEP probably for the first time very categorically talked about the faculty development program specifically. And then that is the reason probably why Sharda University also decided to talk about faculty development in the faculty development program. So I'm very happy to have shared my views. Thank you for this opportunity. I'm now open for any Q&A. If you have, I'll be very happy to share my further views or details now or later also. I've already shared my email. If some people feel uncomfortable to ask or they don't get a time slot to ask, they can write to me and I'll try to answer. So thank you so much. I'll stop sharing my presentation. I'll come face to face with you once again.
Thank you. Thank you so much, sir. It was a very comprehensive and an informative presentation. And the phrase that is still resounding with me is that plain old teacher would cease to exist. So it is, I know we as part of the academic fraternity making efforts, but it's time to double up those efforts as it is evident from your presentation. So we open the house for question and answer session, and there are a few questions. If you permit me, I'll quickly take those up. So
Please.
the first question is from Dr. B. Jani. He is mentioning it is good for institutions whose primary duty is education to involve in research rigorously. Will it be justice to the students? Research will only be put in IITs or NITs. Is it true?
Madam, I could not get your question fully.
The question is, he's asking that, is it okay for educational institutions which are involved in, whose primary duty is to educate, to involve in research rigorously? So will it be the justice done to the students?
I must tell you, as a teacher, my duty is what I call as dissemination of information, assimilation of information, and generation of information. I'm not outsourcing that someone will generate the knowledge and give it to me and then I'll assimilate and disseminate. As a teacher, my duty is to do all the 3 important parts. One can have 4 parts also, but my generic representation is 3 parts: assimilation, dissemination, and generation. Right now, unfortunately, in India, we are doing only assimilation and dissemination. Now, generation will also be important. Research should not be proprietary of IITs or NITs or any institution for that matter. It should be omnipresent. Let me tell you, the rural India is more geared and more uncluttered to do better research. And that's why I said, research track should be opened. For example, I come in first year, I hardly knew about what is research because I was in school earlier. But suddenly I get excited with research, let me tell you. And once I get excited, my institution should be able to offer me some exposure to research in second year. And with that, I'll be able to take a call whether in third year I'll pursue that or I'll drop that. I give you an example of a student in SRN who fortunately knew me. He went for a study abroad program. He was in third year of electronics, and he, after doing successfully around 2.5 years in electronics, was exposed to newer dimensions of quantum electronics, science of 20th century, physics of music, something of those courses he took, and he worked under a Nobel laureate or a sub-student of Nobel laureate. And he was so excited with all that learning which he did in that US exchange program that he took a completely research track rather than an engineering track after coming back. So the point is, research should not be refrained at any level in any institution for any student. Research indirectly also means for me innovation, the development. Research also has arms in form of consultancy and testing and things of that particular nature. So that's my answer, madam.
Thank you. Thank you so much, sir. One more question. It is coming from Dr. Nagaraju. He's saying many institutions do not have basic infrastructure to offer multidisciplinary courses. How can NAP be implemented effectively in general and in rural areas in particular?
Look, I'm not in the country's governance to give that answer. I wish this question was asked that when the automobiles were developed, how will it come to rural India? It took 100 years or 50 years. So was the case with electricity. So is the case with any other technology which is there, whether it is a rail or air connectivity. The point I'm trying to make to you is, in recent times, the spread of technology is much faster and much less costlier. Because anyone who develops technology, they develop it for the whole world rather than for their own society or their own country. And that is the reason why the increase in the mobile compared to the plain old telephone, wire telephone, is much higher. That probably took 30, 40 years to reach a certain number. And the same thing has been achieved in mobile in 5 years. The point is, number one point is, technology's spread is becoming faster and cheaper right now. Number two, technology makes everything very, very scalable very easily. A village which is desperate to do all that through technology can have just one repeater from a mobile service provider. There might be some small cost, but it can reach anywhere on the earth. Okay. Most of satellites are there. They cover entire world or universe by square inches. And with the kind of coverage you want, only thing is affordability or the cost is a point of concern there. So the point is, technology is ready with the solutions. If you have affordability, you can go for that. That is a point which government has to answer. Also, if there is a scarcity of teachers, scarcity of tools and tackles and laboratories and high-end this thing, technology brings everything to your own platform very easily at a much lesser cost. I was willing to go to Stanford to do my higher studies, but when I graduated, I could not have afforded it. But today, I can take dozens of courses from a Stanford or Harvard faculty sitting in this chair, in this room, with hardly any cost. So that's the beauty of the technology. So let's not worry. Technology will certainly come. Government is trying. We are all trying. The companies are trying. The cost is getting cut down. And you know that there is a mobile in your pocket, and that is a smart mobile. Possibly you are seeing movies on the line. The one who has asked me a question is probably already seeing movies on the line. I would tell that person, go to village one day, use your mobile and connectivity, and show everything to your students, and that's how the connectivity will improve. That's my answer. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much, sir. Now I would request respected Vice Chancellor, sir, to propose a vote of thanks. Sir, over to you.
Thank you, Dr. Parul. Thank you, Dr. Sancheti sir, for your sharing very precious time and giving wonderful presentations on capacity building, specifically in perspective of multidisciplinary education, and your wonderful concept on data leading to information, leading to wisdom, and then impacts. I think all participants are immensely benefited. Your model on faculty, industry, and internship program, FIIP, for effective engagement of the faculty members for industry academia interactions. I think it is a wonderful concept, and we'll learn more from you, sir, on these aspects, as we are also doing establish industry 4.0 cell, but this model is wonderful. And then the few examples you gave, sir, this is wonderful, that specifically the Bijay Garg. I used to refer some of the papers on 4G mobile communication of Bijay Garg on my research.
Nice.
From such a background.
Okay.
This is eye-opening.
Okay.
And you have also told and presented that students shall be facilitated to design their own curriculum, their program, and internationalizations and IIC is equally important. And technology will be decided by the teachers appropriately for effective content delivery. And technology in teaching learning as well also important, very important, but it is to be appropriately decided by the faculty members. And you also emphasized on very innovative and effective evaluation methods, specifically to assess the learning outcomes is the actual concern. So this is very, very important. And then your prescription are wonderful, sir. 5 aspects you talked, that if every year at least one aspect faculty, all these 5 aspects faculty members should undergo the training, or they should be exposed on that. Definitely all the participants will be benefited. And then your answer on the knowledge generations and then assimilations and dissemination is wonderful, because higher education, the meaning of university is only to knowledge creation, then that knowledge should go to the students or learners. And wonderful answer, sir. Thank you very much, and very useful event. All the participants are highly acknowledging on the chat box. Thank you very much, sir.
Thank you, Professor Khara, for this opportunity. Thank you to all your leadership also. Please convey my regards to Gupta Saab and everyone in their family, Professor R.P. Agrawal. I know all of them fairly well, and very happy to connect with Sharda University and all your faculty. Thanks to Professor Rao and Madam Parul, everyone. Hope we'll see each other very soon.
Sure, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Thank you so much.
Thank you so
much, sir. Thank
Good
you so
evening,
much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Rao sir, would you like to speak before we wind up?
Yeah, friends. Yeah, it's again, I'm really very happy today that all the sessions are giving us goosebumps in the academic feast. It is, Furkan sir, Anil Sahasrabudhe sir, then Sandeep sir. After listening to these, towering personalities and visionary leaders, I'm now thinking, there is so much to do. So much to do, and we have a lot of opportunities. And how the challenges are, simplified by Sandeep sir will definitely add a lot of value for all of us. I'm sure everyone will take to the best of its level, and we are going to have 7 days plenary sessions like this. That is the power of listening to the leaders, particularly the visionary leaders in the academic space. I'm really very happy. I am also thankful to all the deans of the institute and the leaders, professors, senior professors, and all of you for making this event happen very, very smoothly. And it is a feast to everyone. Thank you so much. Let us all meet tomorrow at 1:45 onwards. Thank you all. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you to the participants also for their wonderful interaction and their enthusiasm. And we hope to see you same time tomorrow. As I mentioned, we are going to start sharp at 1:45. So our heartfelt thanks to all of you, to the speakers of the day, Professor Sahasrabudhe, and the speakers of the day, Professor Kamar and Professor Sancheti. Sir, once again, from the entire organizing team, heartfelt thanks, sir.
Yeah, thank you, sir. Thank you.
The meeting will remain on for next 5 minutes. Those who are left for registration, they can do it. The remaining can leave, those who have already done the feedback.
Ankur?